But they knew I was coming, you see. They knew. They knew I was coming. They were told I was coming. I'm a very, very peaceful man, but if I need to get very, very violent, I can do very, very easily. But it takes a lot to get me there. I think as a man, you need to be able to be very violent in a predicament like that. You have to be, but you should also be able to turn it on and off when you want and not lose control over it. That's what I believe every single man should be like. So the minute I open that door, and you've got to understand, in this prison, on this wing, it's a security prison, there's a camera outside every single cell. And in the middle, at the end of that wing, there's a cage with about 7, 8 officers in there looking at the cameras. Now, what business have 9, 10 Muslims got going into an EDL leader's prison cell? You know, they know precisely what was happening. I won't be surprised if they set it up on purpose. So the minute I opened that door, they came in, jumped all over me, had a little knife mark in the back of my head. The minute I got down, one of them hit me and it kind of dazed me a little bit. And then I kind of just tried to move myself over to the bed. So it's just my back, you know what I mean? And then one of them kicked me really, really bad in my back. And then I turned around, and then when I was trying to get up that's when I think that thing in the back of my head happened. And then when that happened, I went back down again. It was like a big thing, but it was some sort of object, maybe a sharpened toothpaste or something. When that happened, I went back down. And then I got back up again. And at that point, I was like, okay, I need to try and fight back here. Like on one of the heads, I think someone tried to poke me in the back head. Didn't quite work. Back of my head split. Still got the scar now. And I had my eye swelled up loads. My lips swelled up. Had like stamp marks to my front and back. Not too bad. You know what I mean? It wasn't too bad. I've seen if I was with one of my mates and we went heavy on somebody, it'd be a hell of a lot worse than what they did to me. And then I saw the officers, alarm bells are running, the officers are running up the stairs to the floors. I looked over, the officers weren't quite up and he was down and out. And I thought I saw the table leg. So I picked that table leg and I started giving him a bit more beating with that. And the minute the officers got to the floors, I dropped it, put my hands up and said, "Weren't my fault."
Right, I am here with Guramit Singh and talk about prison stories with danger in them, hard-hitting, fast-paced. Guramit is a charismatic, powerful speaker. I've watched his other stuff. All of his links are in the description box below this video. Support his work, check him out, follow him. And we like to start in the thick of the action in our podcast.
Yeah, go ahead.
And there's a slew of stories that I'm familiar with from your story.
Yeah.
But there's one in particular in Wayland, because he's got a hit on his life throughout this. He's just trying to stay alive throughout this.
That's all we try to do, get home in one piece. Yeah.
What happens at Wayland before we go back to when you enter the prison system?
So in Wayland, when I got moved to Wayland from HMP Stocken, obviously because of my involvement in the English Defence League, the Muslim community didn't really take too kindly of me for whatever reason that may be. In Wayland, when I finally arrived there, I was moved on to a wing. I knew immediately I was going to have some trouble. I did have to talk to an officer because I thought this is somewhere that could really affect me physically quite quickly. So they moved me on to another wing and everything.
Slow down.
Sorry.
How did you know you're going to have some trouble?
Because the wing they put me on was 99% Muslim.
Okay, and they've got a hit on you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And now, obviously, when I landed in Wayland, the rumours of me actually arriving in that prison in Norfolk had not actually quite landed yet, because this is out of the Midlands where my face is quite popular.
Yeah.
It's in Norfolk. It's mainly a North London, East London gang ship-out jail. So you're dealing with a lot more violent prisoner than what I dealt with in previous jails like HMP Stocken, where I was jumped by 10 Muslims. In Wayland, I was on one wing and then they moved me onto another wing and I was getting on all right, actually. I actually thought I settled on that wing a lot more. It was more of a diverse community than mainly just one religion. From there, security came to me about 2 months into the sentence, 3 months into the sentence, and they knocked on my door at about 10:30 at night. They said, "Listen, are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Like, what's going on here? What's the issue?" And that got me a little bit worried. And they said, "We've had intelligence that there's a hit on your head." And, you know, people are talking about there's £21,000 being raised to basically eradicate you. I was like, "Oh, that's effing great, that is," you know what I mean? I was like, I'm here getting my head down. I've never done anything wrong. If I've been in any scraps or anything before, it's only to protect myself, you know, which I'm allowed to do. It's just self-defense, but I've never instigated anything. So that happened. Now, when I was in HMP Stocken, that was more of a simple in and out, 10 lads jumping you, a couple of black eyes, little knife mark on the back of the head, that's it. I could cope with that. But when you're now literally there's money on your life. You know, I got into a bit of an argument with the officer. I was like, well, how about I just start chucking money around and putting it on other people's heads and stuff? I mean, is this how it works now, 1 for 1? And then, so that basically happened. But because of that, Sean, so the threat was immediate. It didn't quite get to me. But I did notice things in the prison changing. I noticed people looking at me differently. I noticed people that usually greet me with a smile. That wasn't happening no more. So a few days prior to that officer arriving to my cell, I did notice the whole dynamics of everything changing socially for me. So when that happened, they came to me the next morning. They said, look, it's a little bit too much of a serious threat. We're going to have to move you. And I thought, bloody hell, they're going to move me into the block or something like that. They moved me to the open wing. Now, the open wing in Wayland is precisely where you go before you go to a Cat D prison. And I was waiting for this my whole prison sentence. So me landing on that open wing was like winning the lottery. So whatever they did have planned actually really backfired for them, because when I did land on that open wing, a couple of months later, after numerous negotiations with our governors and governors of other prisons, I finally got to a Cat D. So bingo.
Right. There's just a taste. There's just a taste of what's to come. We're going to go over this more slowly now. From him going into the prison and do the entire journey through. So your conviction was attempted
robbery, extortion, demanding money with menaces, assault, a few other bits and bobs.
What was your sentence?
Pardon? My sentence originally was 7.5 years, but as it's known, I didn't turn up to my court case. I felt that the court case was... I felt the police had tampered with evidence. I felt my solicitor at the time had let me quite down. And my head wasn't in the greatest of states. My cousin had just recently died. I went to his funeral. And this newfound evidence had come up out of nowhere, and I wanted my lawyers to dig a little bit deeper into it, and that wasn't happening. So I decided on the day of the court case not to turn up. So long story short...
No, we like long stories long.
Oh, okay, then no problem. So yeah, I didn't turn up to my court case. That was a Monday. My solicitors, the original solicitors I was using, which was quite good, came more than them lot. He rung me up. He says, where are you? Are you coming? I said, no. The judge asked them for, look, we need his phone number, we need his details. He actually told them, like, that's privileged information, you're not getting that. The judge immediately turned around to the police officers and said, look, I want you to get him via his phone. So they came looking for me. By that time, I was already in London. Now, I thought, I'll go on the run, I'll have a few drinks, I'll sort some finances out for my family, etc. I can handle my affairs, and then I could come back and answer my bail and basically hand myself in. That was the plan. But the stress that it put on me mentally was crazy. I started going out every night. I was on the old powder. I was drinking like there was no tomorrow. I made myself ill. And that went on for a couple of weeks. Now, I used to be in central London, and I tagged myself in that I was in Cornwall, and then police officers were putting my face on newspapers in Cornwall, and then I'd be in Cornwall and say I'm in central London, and then they'd look around London for me. So it was a whole game of cat and mouse for a few weeks. And so I did finally come back to Nottingham after a couple of weeks once I got all my affairs in order. When that actually happened, I came home. I actually told the police officers where I was, and the police officers never turned up to my house. So I was renting a house in somebody else's name just out the way while I could just get my head together and just work out what my next move was going to be. Obviously, it was going to prison, but there was other affairs and businesses I had to put my hand to before I did go, make sure everything was safe and secure for my family, especially for when I came home as well. So, yeah, I told them where I was, and they finally kicked the door in, and then they came round and had a little bit of an argument with the officers, had a little bit of a tussle. Then they finally took me to the police station. Now, I'm a Nottingham lad. I was arrested in Nottingham, but they didn't take me to a Nottingham police station. They took me to a Derby police station. From there, I think that was a Sunday it was a Sunday. And then on the Monday, they took me back to Crown Court. Now, when I went to Crown Court, the judge that had sentenced me in my absence, he wanted to see me. So the judge that I saw on Crown Court on the Monday says, I know you've had 7.5 years. Now, there's extra charges here, and there's a couple other charges as well that I'll tell you about later on when we get to it. They found some green in one of my tenants' houses, which I just basically said, well, I'm just going to put my hands up to that as well because it's my fault they went round there anyway. So the judge that was residing on the Monday when they took me to Crown Court, he stated that the original judge that sentenced me wanted to see me. So he says, go back to HMP Nottingham, you'll be back here in a week's time. So I got 7.5 years, and then I'm wondering to myself, bloody hell, what more bird am I going to get? Hopefully it's not going to get too much. I put a surety down for myself as well to get bail in the first place. So that was all at risk as well, but I wasn't really too bothered about that. So they took me back to Nottingham, HMP Nottingham. I was just on the induction wing, B wing, and my head was in such a place, and I'd been drinking and being excessive with everything for so long, for a good few weeks, that I just slept for the first few days. I missed my induction and everything. Just wanted to get my head down. And then they finally took me back to HMP Nottingham, and my mindset, I kind of focused and zoned in on the fact that I'm going to be in jail now for a while. So I know the threats that are coming towards me. So just keep your head down. To do what you usually do in life, put yourself around the right people, shoulders up, head up, you know what I mean? Let's just get cracking. And then, so when the judge finally saw me in Crown Court that sentenced me in the first place, he goes, "Oh, Mr. Singh, Mr. Gallagher, I've been waiting for you." He goes, "You've been a popular one." And I'll get to it in a second. And so he told me, he goes, "Look, you had 7.5 years. We're giving you another 2 years for going on the run, so that adds up to 9.5 years." He goes, "When it comes to the talk of the surety, we're going to arrange another court case for that." He goes, "I think," he showed a little bit of empathy. He goes, "I think you've been through a lot." I thought, bloody hell. And then he goes, "When it comes to the matter of a surety, I'm going to bring you back to court and we'll discuss it, because it seems you've had a hard time." I was like, "I'm not in the mood of coming back to court or anything. My family's here. They'll make the payment for you. And so I'm not coming back to court. Just take your money and get me gone." And he goes, "Fair enough then." And then so I went back downstairs into the cells, and they finally took me to Nottingham, and my sentence started of 9.5 months. And it started from that day, not the day that I was previous sentenced. A few weeks weren't took off because obviously I went on my toes. And then, so we went to HMP Nottingham. From there, the induction wing, they moved me over to another wing. And on there, they put me in a cell with a Muslim lad. I thought, well, the security report here isn't too great. I ain't got no issue with them, but obviously they've got a problem with me. And obviously on that wing, I got to know the couple of local lads, the heavies on the wings. I kind of knew them a little bit from Nottingham. Put a couple of quid in their pocket, got myself into a single cell, took a wing barber job, which is probably one of the worst decisions I made in my prison career. As you can probably tell yourself, I'm not really a genius when it comes to using scissors and clippers. I've got no need to for myself. And so I started cutting hair on the wing. I was cocking up everybody's hair. It was ridiculous. I had people knocking on my door wanting to scrap with me over how much I messed their hair up. So that all happened, and then so I did that for a couple of months. So I was in HMP Nottingham for about 6 months in total. And then so one day the knock came at the door saying, obviously you've got to progress in your prison sentence, you've got to move on. My family, there was a threat on the wing. This one lad was planning on kettling me or something, but a couple of the lads got hold of him, and that never happened.
For our American viewers, could you explain what that means, kettling? Yeah,
so kettling in prison is when somebody gets a kettle, they boil it with hot water and they put sugar inside it. So I saw it happen a couple of times on the Nottingham wing. I've completely forgot about this. On the Nottingham wing, I saw that actually happen to one individual. It literally did take the first few layers of skin completely off him. His eye was completely bloodshot.
What was the reason they got him?
They said that he was a the lad was actually in for growing. Right. Rumours and lies spread in prison just as much as they spread outside of prison. There's always some idiot that will create a lie, and then there's always some fools that will spread the rumours, you know what I mean?
And his face melted off.
Yeah, he had a really bad time with it. He was off the wing for about 2 weeks. I think he was in hospital for a week, and then he did actually come back to the wing, and the lads that did catch him, they were off. I think they went to a high security jail somewhere up north. So I think they probably ACAT'd them off or something like that.
You said you saw it twice.
Pardon? That was one that was nearly happened to me, but I saw that once happen on the wing. I saw that happen once in jail. Yeah. I saw it I saw the before and after effects of it in other jails. So I saw lads running into cells and running out, and then the lad coming out. But that was the first time I saw it face to face when I was on the wing in HMP Nottingham. So it's not the nicest experiences. So there was a lad in HMP Nottingham that was planning on doing that to me, but obviously a few lads knew me and had my back. It's my hometown, Nottingham, so a lot of the lads are on my side regardless of what grievances people have against me. And so they kind of put a stop to that, I found out, and that's when I kind of first started thinking to myself, even though it's Nottingham and a lot of the lads around here, you may have to keep your wits about you a little bit better. So I started being a little bit more careful and clever about who I kept around me. I was watching my back everywhere, and I've got that same kind of, call it a paranoia if you want, even now to this day, you know what I mean? Even when I parked outside your lovely house, whenever I jump out my car, I look everywhere, you know what I mean? Whenever I jump in my car, I lock it straight away, and that all comes from that mindset that I had to have in jail to survive.
I'm not surprised, right? I've got a few questions for you from everything you've said so far. Yeah. First one is, we've never had anyone on who has not shown up for court. Yeah. So is that a charge in itself, or was that the charge of going on the run?
Yeah. So the charge they sentenced me in my absence. So regardless so I didn't turn up to court, they sentenced me anyway. The going on the run charge, the eloping, whatever they call it, that was a separate charge. So they give me another 2.5 years for that.
And do you get a charge for not showing up in court? Is that a specific charge as well?
Yeah, it is a specific charge. I cannot remember the actual precise name of it. I'm sure if you Google my name, it will come up there. But yeah, it was a completely separate charge. Yeah, eloping without because I broke my bail, so I cut my tag off. My tag actually ended up at somebody's house in Luton. And as people know, I'm quite closely related with a popular figure from Luton, but it wasn't him. But it did actually end up in Luton, and some old lady handed it into the police station, so the coppers were looking for me in Luton for a little bit. So how that got down there, I don't know, but you know.
All right, we need your best Barber story. Whose hair did you screw up the most, and what was the consequence?
Right, the lad, Robbo, he's like a MMA fighter from down Long Eaton in Nottingham. Yeah, absolute cock up. And then
what was the condition of his hair coming into you?
Well, he hadn't had his hair cut for about 3-4 weeks because he's been on the block, so his hair was just like a big, like class it as an English afro sort of thing. And then he came to me, he goes, "Amit, do me a favour, just trim it up, just cut it down, nothing too hard." To tell you the truth, I thought I had it all under control. And then when I did it, he went back to his cell. Then he come back the next morning, and obviously they open your cell doors one by one. Now his cell was before mine, so he opened his, and all I heard was bang, bang, bang. I don't want to swear on your show, but Calorai, what's going on here? He goes, "His hair's still here, like there's hair behind his ear still down there." I didn't notice when I was doing it. I thought, bloody hell. I thought, "Robbo, I'm sorry." I opened my door. I said, "Robbo, I'm sorry, mate." He goes, "Just shave it all bloody off now." So luckily he didn't give me a right on my jaw. So I sat him down and I just shaved it all off. After that, what I started doing, there was an actual professional barber on the wing. So I said to him, "Here, you take the clippers. I'll give you an ounce of burn a week, which is an ounce of tobacco. And that way I'll keep my single cell and you'll earn an ounce of tobacco." So, so it works out. The officers knew what I was doing. They didn't say anything about it. So that's how I moved forward in that career on the wing.
Did any of the hair screw-ups become actually physical?
Pardon?
Was there any?
No, that was the closest one. The other ones I don't think would have even complained even if I did bugger the hair up. But that one got me a little bit worried. Yeah. But it was after that incident, that's when I said, "Right, I'll pay you. You do it outside my cell every day. So, and then I'll just sweep up after you, so it looks like I'm doing something." Because I just wanted to keep that single cell. The only way I could keep that single cell is if I had a prison job on the wing. Yeah. And so that was the main thing for me. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you get sentenced and you know what time you've got, and you're thinking, "I'm going to get on such and such a day." But when you've got other charges pending, that really messes with your head, doesn't it?
So obviously when I arrived at court, and then a week later they brought me back to the original judge. He gave me the extra bird for going on the run, and then there was another charge of marijuana and production of marijuana at one of my houses. It was a tenant's house. I just took the rap for it because they were raiding houses that my name was associated with to try and find me, and so that's how they got hold of that. Now, that charge, my solicitor rung them every single week while we were in prison about that charge. There's only a bit of marijuana, it weren't much.
Green.
About 34. Green. So green, yeah. There's only a bit of green, not too much. About 30, 40 plants, probably about nothing more than 20, 30,000 pounds worth, something like that. But nothing had come of it until Cat D. So when I was in Cat D, that's funny how the officers then came for the charge.
All right, so we're still in Nottingham prison right now.
Still Nottingham prison. Cat D's right at the end. Cat D's the open, Nick.
All right, let's keep going with Nottingham now.
Yeah. So obviously I saw that assault happen with that lad with the kettling, and now your viewers all know what kettling is. Not the prettiest of thoughts. There was another shocking moment in Nottingham, and there was a lad next door to me. I can't remember his name for the life of me. I've got a friend actually, Cookie. He came home a couple of years ago. I'm going to ask him, see if he remembers. But next door to me on the wing, this lad had cancer. And he only had I think he had a charge for burglary or something. He had a couple of charges concurrent, so consecutive, so they're running one on top of each other. So maybe he got arrested for 4 burglaries. He was getting charged for each one side by side, on top of each other, sorry. And he had cancer at the time, and he only got like a small sentence, something like 18 months, something that they could have quite easily suspended, especially if he's got such a serious health condition. He used to have his family members outside the jail every day, like protesting and stuff. There was one evening when Cookie was in my cell. We were watching Phoenix Nights at Max and Paddy. I had the DVD box set. We were watching that one night, and I'd run out of Rizzler, and Cookie didn't have much either. So I thought I'll go and ask this lad next door. He always helps me out. I always help him out. So I went to his door to ask him for a few Rizzlers. Tried to push the door open, but the door was like jammed, and I saw like a bit of cloth at the top. I was like, "What the hell was that?" So then when I opened the door, when I give it a good shove, the flap on the inside, the flap on the outside of the door kind of swung open when I pushed it, and then all I saw was his body drop to the ground. Oh. So obviously he had hung himself, and he hung himself during that evening association period. Now, when I finally pushed the door forward, I got to his body, I just ran out, and, my first instinct was just call the screws. So I called the prison officers over, they come out, shut down the whole wing. Because it was me and Cookie together, they said, right, you two get in that cell right now. And then, so us two were in the cell together, and then obviously they brought the nurses in, the paramedics and all that. And then later on in the night, we were asking the officers, like, what's going with us? I'm not being funny, Cookie's my mate and everything, but I don't really want him in my bloody cell all night, especially when he's nicking my tobacco. So, and then at about 4 or 5 in the morning, CID turned up, and then they questioned us about what happened. And then we told them, then finally Cookie was allowed back to his cell. But yeah, the lad had hung himself.
When you saw the body, was there any signs of life? Was it blue?
I've never seen, you know what, that sight is a moment that will stick with me forever. Because I've seen dead bodies before, and not criminally, like friends or family that have passed. More recently, like my father that had passed, I discovered his dead body. But that was a still dead body. With him, because he fell and due to gravity, it's like how he fell, it was like nothing. It's like folded within itself. Your brain isn't working, your nervous system isn't working to keep you up or upright or anything. So he just fell, and the way he just fell and like folded, I was like, bloody hell, and you could tell straight away he was dead. And I just shoved the door open, got to him, screamed his name out, and then I just went and got the officers, and then they came in and started their process.
Was his eyes closed?
Pardon?
Was his eyes closed?
I can't remember his eyes. It was mainly his body that like kind of saw more than anything, but I can't remember seeing his eyes. Yeah, but he hung himself with prison tracksuit bottoms. That's what was stuck in the door. Hung himself, put it on the door, and then let go himself. So he must have been quite. He must have had a lot of. He must have wanted to proper die, because obviously, I'd think to myself, if I was in a position where I was getting strangled, I'd do everything to save myself. And I think that's just an immediate reaction, human reaction to anybody. But yeah, with him, he must have been relentless with it, and he achieved what he went out to get, what he wanted to get done. But yeah, that was sad to see that.
Yeah, really sad. The rate at which people do that in prison is a lot higher than in the public.
Well, yeah, I mean, when it comes to suicide in general, it's always a majority men. So yeah, but yes. But yeah, maybe you could have taught someone. You have like Samaritans in the prison and stuff like that. Not prison officers, but Samaritans that come in, and then you've got inmates that sign up to be Samaritans. I did that in Ranby, but I didn't really agree with how they did things. They ask questions. They don't try and solve anybody's problems. I didn't agree with that, so I removed myself from the course.
So what happens next in Nottingham?
So in Nottingham, that all happened. There are a couple of the highlights of it. And from Nottingham, after I was 6 months there, I didn't visit my family or anything, because I didn't want my mother or my little brother, seeing me in prison. I didn't think it was right place for a woman and a child to be. Well, not a child. My brother was 18 years old then. But I didn't think it was the right place for him. So after that, I went to Ranby.
All right, before that, did you settle into a routine in Nottingham?
Yes, I did do, mate. Yeah,
what was your routine?
I woke up in the morning. They'd wake up first thing, 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'd get in the shower, and then I'd come out the shower, and then most of the day I'd be helping the lads on the wing, cleaning and stuff, because obviously I was a wing barber. I could only do that during associations, so my time was quite free. But because I was a wing barber, my door was open all day. I was in my single cell. I was all right. I started going to the gym for the first time in my life. I never went since, never been before. I go twice a day now religiously. I absolutely love it. It's really helped me out quite a lot in there, mentally as well and physically as well, And and then association, you'd get your lunch, you'd come back to your cell, bang up for a couple of hours. Well, sorry, no, once you've had your lunch, bang up for about half an hour, get up again, everybody goes to work, you're on the wing for a couple of hours again. And then you come back, bang up for half an hour, get up, have your dinner, the association for 2 hours, and get your head back down, job done. So there was a regular routine. You know what I mean? I knew quite a lot of the lads on the other wings. There was a couple of talks of threats, but like I said, I'm a Nottingham lad, and the lads in that jail are the people. The lads I knew in that jail are the people to be worried about. So I was all right in Nottingham.
Any Bestwood lads in there?
There was plenty of Bestwood lads. Yeah. There was
Shout
plenty
out to
of them,
Dave Gunn. He's got his book coming out.
Bestwood lads,
Bestwood Cartel, boss.
Yeah, there was a lot of Bestwood lads. John Boy, one of my closest pals, he was in there, and I actually linked up with him in Stocken. We actually shared a cell together. But yeah, plenty of Bestwood lads.
So when it came to you getting moved then from your single cell, there's nothing better than a single cell. Did you know you were getting moved, or did it just come for you?
No, they never tell you beforehand, because obviously that's a security list. If there's any intelligence of you moving, you could quite easily arrange not to be moved or somebody to grab you on the movement. So they just came in the middle of the day. It was actually a morning. They just came quite early and said, look, you're going to Ranby. I knew the move was coming, but I could have done my old bird in HMP Nottingham because I had it so well there.
I hope you're enjoying the podcast. Here's a word from our sponsor, Skylight. How easy is it to use?
Well, look, he's using it now.
Whether you're tech savvy or not, if a 1-year-old can use it.
Who's that?
It's beloved by millions. Millions of families have fallen in love with the Skylight frames.
Is that Mummy?
Sold across 34 countries with 675 million photos and videos shared. Wow.
And all you've got to do is download an app, the Skylight app, and you can upload all of your favourite photos to it. So as you can see, I've uploaded about 100 so far.
This holiday season, give the gift that keeps on giving memories, whether it's for grandparents who adore seeing the grandkids' latest antics, or a friend who loves capturing every moment. The Skylight frame is the perfect gift to bring joy and connection into any home. It's easy to use, effortless setup and instant sharing with no app or subscription required, and a quick 1-minute setup. Skylight is designed to be easy for all ages. Simply plug in the frame and you're ready to start sharing memories. As you can see, it's got an intuitive touchscreen display, interactive and engaging. The 10-inch color touchscreen allows for easy interaction, letting you pinch, crop and zoom photos directly on the frame, creating a personalized experience. Gift mode, the ultimate surprise. Preload your favorite photos before gifting the Skylight frame. When your loved one plugs in their new frame, they'll be welcomed with special memories ready for immediate enjoyment. It's better than social media. Skylight frame is a great private way to share photos without posting them to the world or having to print hard copies. Store thousands of photos. Skylight frame can hold up to 8,000 photos with 8 gigabytes of space. Satisfaction guaranteed. We're confident that you'll love Skylight. They offer free 120-day returns. For a limited time, get up to £40 off your purchase of a Skylight frame when you go to uk.skylightframe.com/Sean, SHAUN. That's right. To get up to £40 off your Skylight frame, just go to uk.skylightframe.com/Sean. That's uk.skylightframe.com/Sean. Get up to £40 off a Skylight frame at uk.skylightframe.com. Sean, link in the description box if you're watching this on YouTube. Cheers. Thanks for supporting our sponsor. Back to the podcast.
I thought I'm local, I'm safe, and that was the main thing for me. I know I'm safe. I know I can play this jail quite well, so I was all right there.
So did that get your anxiety up?
Of course it did, yeah. It did, but yeah, you don't know what to expect. I mean, I heard stories about Ranby, but also with Ranby, it's another Nottinghamshire prison, so I know it's full of my lot.
What stories did you heard about Ranby?
I heard stories that it's quite violent. Ranby's 100% probably the most violent prison I've been to on the couple of wings there. But the thing with Ranby is like them violent lads of the wing, they're kind of my lads. They're my mates. Shout out John Boy from Bestwood. I'm not going to go into his stories. That's his business.
Yeah.
But bloody hell. But I heard some rumours about it. You know what I mean? I went to Ranby earlier on in my life on, I think that was a fraud charge back in the day. But that was when I was a kid. You know, I did a couple of months there. Came home on tag. Cut my tag off. They sent me back there for a few weeks. It was when I was a little prat running around the streets.
So in transport to Ranby,
yeah,
what's going through your head?
I was just like, I thought to myself, I know a few lads here already that were already in Nottingham. I actually was in contact with a few lads that were there already that were in Nottingham, so I kept in touch with them in case I was ever coming. And so they told us, if you ever get here, just come over to this wing, try and do this, try and do that. And that's what I did. I weren't thinking too much about it. I thought, let me get myself in there first and let me work it out from there. But I think I should be all right because it's a Nottinghamshire prison. So I got to Ranby, sat down with the officers and reception. They had my security report. They knew who I was. They said, we personally think this is probably going to be the best wing for you. So I went on this wing, F wing in them days I called it. It's all units now or something like that. So I went on that wing. John Boy was there. A few other lads, the Nottingham lads were there. There's a few Muslims and stuff on there that knew who I was, but they weren't trying anything with me. It was all right. Within a week or something, the officers came to me and said, you're a well-behaved inmate. You had a prison job at the last prison. Would you like to go on the open wing? Because they had spaces on the open wings, but it wasn't an open wing like I was in at Wayland. They were just wings with a bit more freedom for well-behaved inmates. But I was kind of comfortable on that wing, and I knew on that wing I did what I did in Nottingham. I paid somebody to get myself a wing job, and so one of the lads I paid, he kind of like ran the surgery team on the wing. And he turned around to one lad and said, right, you F off, he's on. so someone's got to go to the officer and say, I don't want my job anymore. And then I'll be like, I'll have it. And so within a week, I was back on the top floors in a single cell.
At least the barber had job security.
Yeah. I ain't got no problem washing pots, but I ain't got a problem cutting hair, you know what I mean? So within a week, so when I was in that single cell, there was a few other lads that come from Nottingham and we were all together. And so I liked it there. So I said, you know what, leave me on this wing. They were like, you'll be better settled on one of them wings. I wish I'd actually did what the officers told me to do, go on them wings, because I probably could have got to Cat D earlier, but I didn't know anything about the game at that time. I didn't know how the prison build-ups were. This is the first time I've been to a prison and there was an open wing. I didn't know that's the wing where you go to Cat D. I didn't know that, and that's where I should have been. But I stayed on that wing. And then I worked on surgery. I was in Ranby for about a year in total. Worked on surgery for a couple of months. And then I weren't no screwboy. I just got my head down. My cell door was open all day. I came downstairs. I did my job on surgery. There was a few dirty looks and a few rumours from Muslims and stuff from other wings when I went to a library or to the gym or anything, but nothing materialised. Just like Nottingham, it was my people. So I was all right. And a lot of lads had my back there. Even from other towns, they had my back there. And then in Ranby, I got a good job. The officers came to me and said, look, there's a position going for an induction orderly. So when new inmates come to the prison, you'll be in reception, and then you can bring them down to the wing and help them about and do the induction. I said, I'm game for that. It gets me off the wing a little bit, so I'm not sat on that bloody wing all day for 10 hours. I'm walking about here, there, and everywhere. If I want to go into the library, go into the gym, I can do it. I can get into other people's wings. I can see my mates on other wings. So I thought that's perfect for me. It was all right. So I took it, and I did really well with it. And then that run for about 3-4 months. And then what basically happened was, so I had like 4 or 5 months in Ranby. It was all running nice and smoothly. And then what happened is, you get a lot of people on the wing, when they see you, it's like in outside here in life. I've had it recently. People see you doing well in life. They get a bit jealous, and they try and disrupt your path, for their own jealous, hateful reasons. It's always going to happen wherever you are. Unless you live in the middle of the woods and no one's around you, you're always going to see it. And so I went out to do my job at induction one day. Then I came back to the wing and one of the lads had graffitied all in my cell. Like Brown, C, this, that, and the other. I know it wasn't racist. It was laughy-jokey. It was an English lad that did it. But I'm thinking there's something a little bit more to this because me and him were actually all right. And then I went to try and have a word with him and he wouldn't talk to me. And he was in surgery. So he was working behind surgery. So I come downstairs to get my food. I looked him dead in the eye. I said, what effing games are you playing at? And then he was like, what are you going to do about it? And then I saw a group of Muslims like laughing. I thought, I know precisely what's happened here. He's given him some, a bit of the fake green on the wing, and he's gone and done that in my cell to get a reaction out of me. So they're not attacking me, but they're waiting for a reaction from me. And then I went up to my cell, and I sat there. I'm not a stupid bloke. I worked out precisely what happened immediately. And then even all the, a couple of Jamaican lads on the wing I used to chill with a lot, a couple of English lads, same with everything, even out here, it's the same dynamics when it comes to my social circle. They came to me like, listen, one of the Jamaican lads, Reese from Kingston, Jamaica, he's a very respectful bloke in the prison. He was just like, listen, he used to call me Big Cal. My surname's Calorai. He goes, listen, Big Cal. He goes, you've got 2 ways of doing this. If you're looking Cat D, shut that door and be quiet. He goes, otherwise, here's a shank, go and do him. I said, I ain't doing that, but I ain't going to sit in my cell and be quiet because the whole wing's just seen what's happened. So I know what's got to happen now. And so everybody got their dinner and everything, and everyone went back up to the cells. I ate my dinner, and then I went down to the lad's cell. Now, he knew I was coming. So the minute I went down to his cell, he's in his cell with a little Muslim lad, and he's got a table leg out. And he comes out swinging with his table leg. Now, I blocked this table leg 2-3 times with my arm. and then I caught him right on his jaw. But when I caught him, he went down, and then my fist all he saw was a flurry of fists. I give that lad the biggest hiding I've given anybody in my whole bloody life, and I really went for it. I'm a very, very peaceful man, but if I need to get very, very violent, I can do very, very easily. But it takes a lot to get me there. I think as a man, you need to be able to be very violent in a predicament like that. You have to be, but you should also be able to turn it on and off when you want and not lose control over it. That's what I believe every single man should be like. And so I give him a good bloody hiding, and then I saw the officers, alarm bells are running, the officers are running up the stairs to the floors. I looked over, the officers weren't quite up and he was down and out, and I thought I saw the table leg. So I picked that table leg and I started giving him a bit more beating with that. And the minute the officers got to the floors, I dropped it, put my hands up and said, "Weren't my fault." So like, colour I get in your cell. Put me in my cell, lock the door. And then that was that. And then basically, because that happened, both of us got a nicking. Because the officers saw what happened. They saw him come out with a table leg and try to assault me. And then really, at the end of the day, it was just self-defence. Maybe I took it a little bit too far, but the officers really didn't say anything about that. So from there, they give me a nicking. Now, that basically means where you're going to be put in front of the governor. And because I had like a prominent position within the prison as an induction orderly, I had a trustful role. I lost that job immediately. They were like, basically, you lose all your jobs, you lose all your incentives, you lose your privileges, you're on basic, can't have a teller. So I was on F wing, and then the wing which we did inductions out was with B wing. That was a crazy violent wing. I didn't want to stay on that wing, but to tell you the truth, I didn't mind it anyway. I was there every day doing inductions, but that's where all the Bestwood lads were, and that was a crazy wing. And then they moved me over to B wing, so they kept Martin on F wing, and they moved me to B wing. Lost all my jobs, couldn't have a telly. I was in front of the governor within a day or two. Sat down, he says, "What happened?" I said, "I'm not saying a word. Go and ask them officers." And then he goes, "What happened?" I said, "I'm not saying a word. Go and ask the officers. Look at your CCTV. I'm not saying a word." Because the last thing I'm doing is going to start being a prison snitch. But the thing about it is I knew in the back of my head, the officers are going to come into this nicking. The officers were in the nicking with me. And the governor's turned around to the officer and said, "What happened?" And the officer just described to the governor what happened. And he goes, "So basically you defended yourself." I was like, "Oh yeah." He goes, "All right, then sound nicking out." You know what I mean? And then with Martin, Tidy Tideswell, because I didn't say anything about it, obviously he got his nicking thrown out as well. If I was to say that he assaulted me, then there'd be a problem there, but I just kept my mouth shut. So then the Mr. Merry, the SO, CM, custodial manager, Free Stripe of F Wing, he said to me, "Come back to our wing now." He goes, "You got no nicking, you could crack on." I says, "But because I was on F Wing for about a week, the induction officers were there, and I know them people had my back a lot, because in their department I was their induction orderly, and I know they, if I needed some help, I thought these lot got me back a little bit, because they came into the nicking, wrote reports about me. They said, 'Don't worry, Amit, we'll have you sorted one way or another.'" And so they took care of, even when they took the telly out of me, they opened my door in the middle of the night and said, "Here's your telly back." You know what I mean? So I had it like that with them.
Yeah.
So then that happened, and I stayed on F Wing. There was talks of a couple of Muslims who want to do this to him, that to him. A couple of the Jamaican lads found out about it. Black lads found out. There was not a single Muslim on F Wing. A couple of them lads found out about it off the wing. I met people are saying that, "Oh, here's a pack of burn, do him." And they told me about it. And I'd be just like, "Well, here's 10 packs of burn. You know what I need to get done." And then, so I was safe. I was safe in Nottingham. I was absolutely sound. Now, what happened in Nottingham is because obviously then I started working out this whole Cat D process, and my lawyers, I've got lawyers on the outside working for me, working for my prison life and stuff, helping me to take care of some business affairs and some family affairs. And I spoke to them quite a lot about it, and we were looking at this Cat D thing. So what we found out about Cat D is basically I've got just under 5 years to serve. You can do 2 years in Cat D, so I need to serve a solid 3 years. But what I wanted to do was like progress in my sentence, so I can kind of make sure I'm heading towards Cat D. So by the time it came to this point, when I was in Ranby, so I was in Ranby for about a year and a half, really. So I was in jail for like just over 2 years. Now I found out you're supposed to go to Cat D with 24 months left, but there is a possibility of going there with 2.5 years, 3 years left. So I'm thinking, right, if I stay at Ranby, play it by ear, hopefully maybe I could get to Cat D like from here and have like a good 2.5 year, 2 year, 8 month there. So I started writing letters to the governor to say that I want to sit down with you, I want to have a discussion about this whole Cat D thing. And she never replied to me, not once. And I used to see her now and then walking along, and I'd say, "Hey, look, Governor, do you get," because you know who I am, because I'm induction orderly, so I see you a hell of a lot. And she's like, yeah, whatever, get in the line. And one day she just peed me off so much. I was like, I don't understand why you're delaying, like responding to any of my any of my requests to talk to you, or any slips that I've sent you. You can write back to me. I don't get it. I was like, if you can't do your job, I mean, you're acting like a bloody peasant. If you can't do your job, give your role to somebody else, somebody who can fulfil their role and actually do what the taxpayer's paying for. She saw red, and that was it. Bam, you're getting out of here. So the next day, the officers come to my cell and said, damn it, we don't know what's happened, but we've heard about what's happened, and if it's right what's happening, you're leaving now. Now, luckily, because I stayed on that wing and I had the induction officers on my side, they said, look, shut his door, let us go and talk to the governor, hopefully we'll be all right. Now, it was a Saturday they were trying to move me, and it's very rare they move you at a weekend. But they were trying to move me on a Saturday, but she wasn't in the office on a Saturday, so the induction officers actually stopped the move. And then what happened on the Monday, she came back. Is he gone yet? No, he's not gone. Right, send him back again. So security came again on a Monday. They were like, right, pack your bags. He's definitely going now. I went to call the officers. And they were like, we can't help you this time. She's got number one governor with her. So yeah, they packed my bags. I was like, where am I going? They're like, HMP Stocken. I thought, here we bloody go. Because I know from reading prison paperwork inside, the HMP Stocken, the majority of the inmates are Pakistani Muslim. I think the prison dynamics, when it comes to their faith in there, they're about 80%. I thought, now I'm in trouble. I said, this is one thing I've been trying to avoid, and it is down to my fault that I've actually put myself in it. Because with my induction orderly position, I kind of had like a prison hold at Ranby. They wanted to keep me there. So if I ever came to a list to move to another jail, they'd like, no, leave him alone. He's helping us. So I had it good. So because of my own actions, I effed up, and it's quite rare I do that in life. But when I do it, I do learn from it. You know what I mean? Are you right to just have a quick
Yeah, take time. I'm going to so right, high octane prison story. Like I said, here we go. We've got you going into the lion's mouth now.
Yeah, so they moved me out of Ranby and they moved to HMP Stocken. The minute I stepped into HMP Stocken, the induction orders were a couple of Muslim lads recognised me straight away. So literally walked in there, a couple of induction orders recognised me straight away. Aren't you that? Bloody, do you know who's here? And then I heard the rumours when you put you in the immediate cell in reception. I heard them down there talking to other inmates. And then there's a cage, a door, a gate, which has access to another wing. So when they saw me, they're already telling lads on the wing, guess who's turned up? And I'm like, bloody hell. So I walked in there. Then you always have an interview with the officers before you come into the prison. And I was like, I said to them, have you got my security report? And she goes, no. And she goes, it's quite funny because no paperwork's arrived for you. I said, I think you better go on your system and find out and see who you've got here. And they were like, why? And I basically gave her the brief lowdown of myself. And she was like, what the hell are you doing here? And then I was like, look, I don't know what, but, it seems like it's already happening. I've been here 5 minutes. So they put a few calls in and stuff. They came back. They delayed everybody going through reception at that point. And then they after a while, they did start sending the new inductions onto the wings, but they kept me till last. And then they were like, look, we're going to put you on to K wing, which is the induction wing. We think that's the safest wing for you. It's a wing with 2 spurs. There's a big office in the middle. All the officers are there. There's high turnaround. There's people coming and going, but we think you'll be all right there than the other wings, which are settled prisoners. They've been here a while, and them wings, we don't think you'll get on at all. So I said, all right then. So they put me on K wing. I was in there with the Bestwood lad, hold tight John Boy. And they put us, we banged up together. We were on one spur, then we moved over to the settled side of that wing. We moved on to that spur. Sorry, it wasn't K wing. It was called something else. I can't remember, but it was a different wing. So we were on there, it was all right. I got myself a job on the Equalities and Diversity class. So that's quite ironic, isn't it? You know what I mean? EDL leader starts mentoring in the Equalities and Diversity class. I couldn't have written it better myself. When they came to me and said, you're doing that, I was like, are you sure? because I'm all for equalities and diversity, but everybody else believes I'm not. And I was shocked. I was like, maybe these don't really know what the English fencing is really about. And so they put me in that classroom, and there was a Muslim lad in there. So we've been in Stockholm for about 2-3 weeks now, because you do your induction, that takes about a week, another week settling, and then John Boy got a job somewhere, then I got a job there, and then and so I was in that class sometimes. I was teaching people, it is how to fill out your forms. I was helping them do this, I was helping them write their answers out. It could be Muslim, non-Muslim, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I was helping them all just the same. You know what I mean? And then one of the days, it was only a female teacher that was teaching the class, an outside civilian. And one of the Muslim lads picks up a chair and goes to attack her, tries to take her head off with it. So I took the chair out of his hand and I put it down and pushed him back. I said, what what effing games are you playing at? And then the teacher pressed the alarm and all the officers came in. You know, I was in a class of like 40 lads, not one single other lad stood up. I'm not trying to be a screwboy or anything like that. But you know, the minute somebody tries to put their hands on someone vulnerable, like a woman or a child or the elderly, there's something in me that always kicks in. I just can't have it, you know, regardless of what people say. And I think a lot of the lads in that room didn't stand up because of repercussions, fear of repercussions from this lad or his community. But I weren't really interested in none of that. So then that happened. I come back to the wing. Then the rumours started on the wing. What's this about you kicking off with Muslims down education? I said, what are you talking about? The lad was about to hit a teacher. One of the lads he was saying, he goes, you should have just let him do it. He goes, your name's a buzz in this jail now. So everywhere in the jail, my name's Guramit kicking off with lads down education. I thought, bloody hell, here we go. And so the lady didn't come back to the prison to work for another 2 weeks. When she did come back, she insisted that I was a mental. And so I was currently in between jobs on the wing, and then she insisted that she said, I'll do the class again as long as Guramit's going to be my mentor. So I came back. I was like, you okay? Everything all right? She goes, yeah, it was shook up, but thank you so much. None of the officers or governors came to me to thank me or anything, but she did. Really nice lady. So I started doing it again, and then out of the blue, they turned around to me and says, right, you and your mate, we've got your spot on K-Wing, which is predominantly a Muslim wing. I knew that as well. I said to him, I was like, look, have you read my security report? Do you know about me? I know you lot have heard the rumours. You're supposed to be a security jail. HMP Stocken is supposed to be a prison where they train block screws. So if you work in the block in other prisons, 9 times out of 10, you've had your training at HMP Stocken. Each wing is connected via corridors. To get daylight in that prison is only during association, and you're only allowed out there when it's not raining. Otherwise, you've probably got about a 3-inch gap of windows between bars, of a window between bars, 3-inch gaps of any sort of daylight you get. It is a proper security jail. So then they moved me on to K-Wing. The minute they took us to K-Wing, I walked on there. There was about 10, 15 Muslims praying on the floor. And they opened the cage, threw me and John Boy in there, shut the cage. I looked back, smirked at me, and he off. Me and John Boy went to our cells, put our bags down. I looked at John Boy looked at me. John Boy was the best lad. So if you ask Dave about him, he'll know who that is. And then so John Boy looked at me. I said, this is going to go off. It's going off now. I can see them all gathering. It's like a load of vultures gathering around a load of prey. You know what I mean? I could see it immediately. It was there for like a minute. John Boy says, it was association when they moved us there onto their lunchtime association. John Boy went outside to get a couple of the lads that we knew to see if we can maybe settle things before I can work out how the hell to get out of this prison, how the hell to get off this wing. When he was doing that, I went to go and get our lunches, gave our names, ourselves, gave me the lunches. There was a black lad that had a Muslim convert. I actually did catch up with him a few years ago, but I can't go into what happened there. But he turned around, he goes, we know who you are, we know who you are, we keeping an eye on you. You know what I mean? We know you, we watch what we do. And I was like, we'll see what you do then, you know what I mean? So I went back to my cell, I shut the door, I locked the door. And then I'm looking out the window, because my window's right outside the exercise yard. And every time John Boy's walking past, I'm tapping on the bloody window. He's not listening because it's like 2 inches thick, so he can't hear it. And then the knock came. I thought, here it comes. Now, I'm not going to sit in there and shit myself and not open that door. I'd rather just deal with it there and then. So the minute I opened that door, and you've got to understand, in this prison, on this wing, it's a security prison, there's a camera outside every single cell. And in the middle, at the end of that wing, there's a cage with about 7, 8 officers in there looking at the cameras. Now, what business have 9, 10 Muslims got going into an EDL leader's prison cell? You know, they know precisely what was happening. I won't be surprised if they set it up on purpose. So the minute I opened that door, they came in, jumped all over me. I had a little knife mark in the back of my head.
Let's do this slowly.
Go on then.
Right, so the door's opening. What can you see? What can you see?
I saw a large group of Muslim. The ones at the front were obviously black converts. Then I saw a lot of Pakistani lads, and I saw a couple of white converts at the back.
Did they try and disguise themselves?
Nothing at all. They come in barefaced like that. When I opened the door, they just moved straight in, and then I thought, should I swing? And then I thought, there's 10 of them. And then before I know it, they were just on me. So I should have just started swinging. I don't know why. I'm not being funny. If it's 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 lads, yeah, I'm all right. But not like that. That's just daft. But that's how they fight. They don't fight 1-on-1 or anything like that. They'll fight 10-on-1. That's how they do it. They're famous in the prison system for acting like that. That's how they create their fear within the prison system. That's a fact. Everybody knows that. So then I had like 10 of them come in, jumped on me, had a little knife mark on one of the heads. I think someone tried to poke me in the back head. Didn't quite work. Back of my head split. Still got the scar now. And I had my eye swelled up loads. My lips swelled up. Had like stamp marks to my front and back. Not too bad, you know what I mean? It wasn't too bad. I've seen if I was with one of my mates and we went heavy on somebody, it'd be a hell of a lot worse than what they did to me. And then when they were coming in, there was a couple of lads that were there at the back. They were like, "We know who that is. We're not having it with him." So a couple of them actually walked off and didn't come in. You know what I mean? Maybe they feared repercussions or something. But
So you're on the cell floor.
yeah, I was on the cell
Is it
floor.
like fetal position situation?
Pardon? Yeah, the minute I got down, one of them hit me and it kind of dazed me a little bit, and then I kind of just like tried to like move myself over to the bed, so it's just my back, you know what I mean? And then one of them kicked me really, really bad in my back, and then I turned around, and then when I was trying to get up, then that's when I think that thing in the back of my head happened. And then when that happened, I went back down again. It was like a big thing, but it was some sort of object, maybe a sharpened toothpaste or something. When that happened, I went back down. And then I got back up again. And at that point, I was like, okay, I need to try and fight back here. At that point, they were kind of like legged it, all gone. They'd done their little thing. It was all over in like 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds tops. But when you're in that position, that feels like, a day and a half. It's not quick. So yeah, then that happened. Then when they were legged it, I just shut my door and I locked it. And then John Boy actually came back in from exercise. And then he come to the door, opened it, and he saw the state of my face and the mess that was made in the cell. I opened it, come in, he goes, effing hell, is that how quick they got to you? Because you're talking about minutes from landing on the wing to everything, you know what I mean? Minutes. But they knew I was coming, you see. They knew. They knew I was coming. They were told I was coming. So then that happened, all right, and then lunchtime association had ended, so everybody goes back to the cells, so everyone just comes back in the cells. Now what they do after the end of association is they go around to do a roll check. So they go to every single cell. If there's a chart outside with 2 names, I've got to make sure there's 2 people in that cell. So the officers will go around cell to cell counting to make sure everybody's in the cells. So the minute the officer opened up my door, he saw me, and then he opened up the door and he goes, "What's happened?" I says, "I'm not going to tell you what's happened, but obviously you need to take me off this wing." So he goes, "All right then." So he shut the door, went away, came back, and they were like, "What's happened?" I was like, "I'm not going to tell you what's happened, but you've got a CCTV camera outside every single cell. You've got 10 officers in that cage looking at these cameras all during the association. You need me to tell you what's happened. Come on now." And then the whole peasant thing was going to come out of me again. I thought, I better shut my mouth. I better not call these lot peasants. I need a bit of help right now. So I just kept my mouth shut. And then they grabbed me out. They're like, "Okay, you're moving back to the induction wing." So they moved me back to induction wing. They moved me into a single cell. I was in my cell for about 2-3 days. They let me out for association, but obviously there's Moses on that wing that knew what happened. There was rumours, smirk. "Oh, we got him. This one geezer, one of the original dudes that probably spread my name around there, when I first landed in that prison, one of the induction orderlies, he turned around, he goes, "You see that? We got him. And I turned around and I looked, and I was like, "You may have done that to me here, but what I have done to your faith out there for the last 10 years, I said, "We're not on the same level." Oh, his face was furious. He was fuming. I said, "We're on a different level." I said, "A couple of stamp marks is nothing compared to how far back I've set militant Islam in this country. What I have done to expose you is nothing compared to that." And so, I know that's a fact. Everybody does know the fact, but they did have that one hand on me then. And then obviously I was on the wing for a bit. Every time I came off the wing to go to education, I'd have people try and jump me, so I'd come back to the wing. If I go to religious studies, people try and jump me, so I go back to the wing. So obviously my mother and father and my brother had seen me once in Ranby, so like 2 years they visited me once. I did have a visit plan for HMP Stocken, but because of the state of me, I said, "Look, they're moving me to another jail, don't come." I didn't tell them what happened. Obviously I don't think my mum tunes into Sean Atwood podcast, but if she does do, then she'll probably find out now. Hopefully she doesn't. If she doesn't, because it'll break her heart.
So when you said you saw people coming to jump you,
yeah, there was rumours. If I was at healthcare one day, checking on my wounds, and there's a couple of lads. Oh, one lad will be inside healthcare. There's a cage. When lads are moving during movements from like work back to the wing or something, or the wing to, he's telling that Guramit saying, "You lot get here," and I'd hear it, and I'd look at the officer, and I was like, "Just open that gate." So instead of like waiting around for 10 lot to turn up, I just walked through 2-3 of them. One day outside healthcare, I did put one on one of the lads and really got him hard. There's cameras everywhere, but I noticed this blind spot whenever I was walking around the jail. I noticed this one spot, and he was there. I was, "Oh, you got," before he even pronounced the last syllable of my name, he got one. And then when I hit him, there was another 2, so I legged it back down to the wing. Let me in. So I got on. And then the prison officer, the governor came. He goes, "I know what you've done." I was like, "I've gone protecting myself. It's self-defense. I'm not having it happen." I said, "It's happened once. It's not happening again." And then the officers made a decision, and all during this period, no governor had come to see me. Nothing had happened like that. The officers on the wing are trying to run me, trying to manage me. OMU governor didn't come. No governor come to see me. And they made the decision not to leave the wing at all. So I couldn't go to religious studies, I couldn't go to visits, I couldn't go to work, couldn't go to education, couldn't go to healthcare. So I had to stay on that wing. So they give me a wing cleaner's job, and I just stayed on the wing for a few months. Now I was in HMP Stocken. I was in HMP. Yeah, this says HMP. I was in HMP Stocken for about 6-7 months, and 7-8 months, and then it got a bit worse. So yeah, probably 6 months I was in Stocken for. Then it got a bit worse. They came to my cell one day, and I know Stocken was bad, but they came to my cell one day and they said, "You're going to HMP Wayland." Now I understand how the dynamics and the sort of individuals that run in HMP Wayland. HMP Stocken didn't really bother me. I knew I was all right. But in Wayland, I thought that's a lot more dangerous. So it's like taking me out of the oven and putting me in the frying pan. So then they decided to come to my cell, and they said, "You're moving to HMP Wayland." I said, "I'm not going nowhere." I said, "I ain't going nowhere." I said, "You're going to have to get security and drag me out of this cell." I said, "I ain't going to Wayland." At the same time, me and my solicitor are contacting other prisons to see if anybody can accept me. My solicitor on the outside, he was messaging prisons, prison governors and the OMU departments, various establishments around the country where the local dynamics were in my favour. So basically, there wasn't the prisons that had the minimum amount of Muslims. So I'm all right with the Sikh lads, the Jamaican lads, and the English lads. I'm sound, just how I grew up. But the minute you put me in a jail where the majority of prisons are overrun with Muslims, even though they are 4.something% of the country, there's still about 60-70% of the prison dynamics. If you put me in one of them prisons, I'm only going to be in trouble. And I'm in Stocken now, and then they were on about moving me to Wayland, which is even worse. And so we were in trying to do the prison job for them and try and get me to a safer jail, but obviously it didn't quite plan out, it didn't quite materialise like that. So then they came to my cell, they said, "You're moving, you're going Wayland." I said, "Not a chance in hell." I said, "You'll have to drag me out of here, I'm not going Wayland." Now obviously in the prison system, I've never had to graft or anything on the wing. I don't need to make any money, I've got my own money, I've got my own stuff together. I was sound, and so if I ever needed anything on the wing, I could send some money to an inmate, via post, or drop it off at his family's house, and he'd give me tobacco. With that tobacco, I'd buy items, I'd buy clothing, I'd give it to him, he would order me some trainers. So I had everything. So sometimes officers used to come to my cell and said, like, "We don't have it this well at home." I had everything like that. I made sure I was well taken care of. I took care of myself. DVDs, CDs, I had it all. So then they came to me a day or two later, they said, "Listen, we know you've refused it. Security's here now. They're going to remove you. But when they remove you," the governor said to me, he goes, "every single item of clothing, DVD you have, it's all going in the bin. You will go there, in nothing apart from prison scrubs." I was like, bloody hell, I've just spent like 2.5 years accumulating all this stuff, and now I'm just about to have it ripped off me, you know what I mean? So I decided, all right, then I'll start packing my bags. So I packed my bags, and they put me on the bus, and they shipped me to Wayland. And then when I got to Wayland, the officers were 1,000,000 times better than HMP Stocken. In HMP Stocken, it was like they were all against me. But in Wayland, the minute I landed, my file came through. They looked at it. They kind of said the same thing at HMP Stocken. "What the hell are you doing here?" And then in Wayland, that's what happened, what we spoke about earlier.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So you get to Wayland, and like going in, are you noticing? You like you said, you're hyper vigilant because of this situation,
Yeah.
even to this day.
100%, yeah.
Going into Wayland, then, are your spidey senses triggered right away?
No, I was all right in Wayland. But the minute I got to Wayland, I was in reception. There was a Jamaican lad there, and there was an English lad there. I thought, sound straight away. They were the induction orderlies. So they saw me straight away. You sit down as same as what you do at every prison. At reception, you sit down in an office with one of the prison officers, the induction team, and they'll sit down and have a chat with you. "Do you have any concerns? Are you part of any gang?" You need to let them know what gang you're part of. You know what I mean? Because obviously you don't want to be put on... Well, I don't know nothing about gangs, but, obviously this gang from East London don't want to be in this wing with a gang from North London or whatever. Wayland was a North East London ship out. And basically for all the troublemakers throughout the whole prison system. All Sikh, Wayland was the dumping ground for them. So what I was doing, I ain't got a clue. And so I went there and I was like, "Have you read my report?" She goes, "We knew you were coming, but we didn't get your report. We got a phone call from an officer that was on your wing that actually give a little bit of a 2 pence about you." And then so we've had to pull your report up, otherwise we wouldn't have had any paperwork. We understand your problem. We understand what's going on. We're going to put you on this wing. We think you're going to be okay there. And then they put me on this wing in Wayland, and I thought, this ain't surely this can't be the wing they're talking about. I said, if they think this is the most peaceful wing in the prison for me, I thought, I'm definitely in the SHIT. I thought, what the hell? But I was there for about a week or so, and nobody came to see me, and that's when I approached one of the officers on the wing. I said, I need to talk to you. Then I spoke to him, and he said, bloody hell, I've not been told a thing. And then he went back to his superior and told them. And then they come down to see me one day, and they were like, bloody hell, kid, your name's kind of slipped the net. I said, my name slipped your net? I said, are you joking? I said, you had me in front page of newspapers, only a couple of years ago. You can't tell me my name slipped your net. And I said, all right, it's a cock up. I'm going to help you. And then that's SO, Superior Officer, 2-stripe, he helped me. Then he got me to another wing. And then on that wing I was saying, I got a job in the educational department. I was in the business studies class. I was helping lads complete their business study MVQ, helping them read, write, helping them fill it all out, just like an educational sort of mentor in the business studies class. First I got a servery job there, then the same sort of thing. Officers came to me, you want to take this one? We think there was a Jamaican and an English lad that were in for smuggling out of Jamaica. They were from London, and they were working in the educational department, and I took a kind of shining to them. They took a shining to me. We got on really well, and they got me the job there in education. So when I was down in education, I was helping people of all faith, complete their MVQ level business study exams, teaching them read or write, helping them in the anti-drugs. Sometimes if you're in prison for certain crimes, there's some courses that probation asks you to fulfill, and and they had a drugs course there, so they used to take me in there for the lads who can't fill out the paperwork when they're watching all these videos and stuff. I was helping them do that. And then it was from there where, I went back to the wing one day, and then in the dead of the night, the officers come, and they were like, are you okay? Have you noticed anything different? I said, things have started acting a little bit shady recently. I said, I'm not getting them same smiles I got. I'm turning around, and, the spidey sense is kicking in, and, there'll be 3-4 people looking at me, like talking, then they look away. I said, I've noticed something. I was actually thinking in my head, is it just me, or should I approach someone? And whenever I've noticed anything in the future, since then, I always act on it immediately instead of just waiting to see what happens. So anything I have an issue with nowadays, I act immediately instead of wasting time and just pissing about and seeing if my senses are correct or not. That's why I do I'm quite a bit of an overthinker, you know what I mean? And then obviously security came, they told me about the threat, I had an argument with them, and then they got me onto the open wing. There was people like Kenneth Noy on that wing. There was a billionaire who I'm dying to get hold of. I know he's based out in Monaco. He was a money migration guy, so he moved like hundreds and hundreds of £1 million in a wagon from like one country to the other. And and it was on there where officers came, serious governors used to come down to the wing, talk to me. They used to ask me my advice on Islam. They used to say, yeah, we have this issues here. Why do you think that is? Why do you think of this problem? They did the same thing in Kirklevington as well. It's like they're asking for my advice. Like, you have all this intelligence and all that, but you're not given the true information that you actually require, so you're coming to me for it. So I used to walk around the wing every day with like quite high-ranking officers, superiors and governors, and then finally the OMU governor comes to see me. He goes, I'm giving you a Cat D. So I was in Wayland for about 6-7 months, and I finally got my Cat D.
So with Kenny Noy, we tried to arrange an event for him earlier this year, but the authorities cancelled it, threatened to recall him and stuff. Did you speak to him? Or
I spoke to him in passing, like, all right, mate, how you doing? All right, Sam. I was like, you're a legend, you are. You know what I mean? You just chatted to him like that, you know what I mean? But not really in deep depth conversation. The day I left Kenneth Noy, when I was on the wing in Wayland, he had just got his Category D status. Now, Michael Gove was Justice Secretary at the time, and the day I left to go to my Cat D, Michael Gove had revoked his Cat D. So he didn't get his Cat D, so he had to stay in Wayland longer. Now, when I was up in Kirklevington, from reading newspapers, I found out that he finally did get his Cat D, but I was in prison with him at that period. But yeah, kind of like, the guy's got an aura about him. You can tell he's old school, you can tell he's really about his business, you know what I mean? But he'll tell you what Wayland was like himself. If you ever spoke to him about it, ask him about it, and he'll confirm everything that I've said to you. You know what I mean? It's like you're in a foreign country. It's crazy. You know
what happens next?
So from there, finally, I mean, here's the thing again, because okay, so I've got my Cat D, all right. So we're going to a Category D prison. So I've got a good year and a half, just over a year and a half served. So I've done 3 years. Let's call it 3 year, 3 month. I've done solid jail time, okay, in B cats and in C cats. So now we're going to jail, all right, and now we're going to Cat D prison. Now the thing is, if you sent me to a Category D prison around my hometown, there's 2 Cat D prisons around there. There's one HMP Sudbury, and there's another one HMP North Sea Camp out in Skegness. They're both local to Nottingham. Now, I'm not going to North Sea Camp because it's 80% sex offenders, and I don't want people pointing the finger saying he's a so I'm not going there. And I'm not going to HMP Sudbury because I'm so well known in that community, in that area. What's going to happen to me in that Cat D? I kind of know from learning from other inmates and how the prison system works. What's going to happen is I'm going to go to HMP Sudbury, and what they're going to do is they're going to put my name in that box every day saying that I've been selling drugs, I've been doing this, I've been doing that. And when your name is repeatedly put in that box in a Cat D prison, they throw you out to the Cat C that you came from. Then they investigate if you've done any wrong or not. And if you haven't, they bring you back. So I'm not getting put in a Cat D and having that happen to me and me going back to Wayland and then waiting God knows how many months to go back to Cat D again. So when we were on that wing, that open wing, there was an orderly there that worked for the OMU department. And so I had an in. So I was like, listen, lad. So the billionaire, Roger, he sat him down with me. I said, here's 10 ounces of burn. That's like £180. This guy's eye, it's like he won the lottery. I said, you're an orderly. I understand you don't control the OMU department, but you've got some sort of he goes, I can talk. I said, well, here's what I need you to do. So we had another orderly, which was a library orderly. So he made a printout of every single Category D prison's dynamics in the whole country. So he came to the wing, and me and a few lads, because on that wing, it was a well-behaved wing, it's an open wing, everyone's going to prison, that's why there was no Muslims on the wing. So I was quite safe on that wing. So on that wing, we went to the pool table, and they were pulling out Cat Ds, and we were looking down the dynamics of the religious build-ups, basically. That's as honest as I can say it. And we were like, that one, not a chance. That one, no wait. This one, no wait. Now, these are interesting. One prison was HMP Prescoid in Wales. They had a Category D wing. Another one was HMP Kirklevington in the northeast. Now, the problem is, due to prison politics, for me to arrange to go to one of these prisons, I approached the OMU, I approached the governor about it, and he goes, listen, Guramit, the problem is, it's too far we've got a budget of how much we can spend to move one inmate, to move inmates to Category D. Now, we've got local Category D jails here, and I was like, but if you sent me there, all the people that have been in this prison are in there. So I'm going to have the same issues I'm thinking I'm going to have in Sudbury there. So I said, I'm not comfortable with it. I said, I think I'd rather stay here until you work something out. Okay, so when they turned around to me, I said, all right, I found a prison I think I'll be very comfortable with, and it'll be HMP Kirklevington in Teesside, the northeast, or maybe HMP Prescoid in Wales, just because the prison dynamics are in my favour. There's hardly any Muslims there. And what he basically said, that's too far to send one inmate. We're given a budget. He goes, usually from this prison, what we do is we send inmates to the local Cat D, which is, I think it's Isle of something, Isle of Sheppey or something like that. And I was like, but the problem is everybody in this prison, my name's a buzz in this jail now. Every single day outside that Cat D wing, the Cat D wing was separated from the rest of the prison. Every single day there would be Muslims congregating outside that wing, waiting for me to leave that wing and go on a walk. That was daily. They knew about that. That's why they knew they couldn't take me. Every single day they're asking me, is Guramit still there? Is he here? Is he there? A lot of the lads were throwing him off, saying, he got kicked out the other day. But then other people were like, yeah, he's still here. And so I was like, I'm going to have the same issues that I predict that I'm going to have in HMP Sudbury, where people on the wing at this local Cat D are going to put my name in that box. I said, I'm not safe. I said, send me up there. And they were like, we don't have the money for it. I said, not a problem. Here's a phone number, or let me use a phone, let me call someone, I'll have whatever money in whatever account straight away. But, it doesn't work like that. And even though it's so simple, I'd be quite in favour of it, an inmate paying for his own transport so it saves the prison or the prison service money, you know what I mean? Why not? But it didn't quite work like that. So then we were in a little bit of a rut with it. So a few days passed, and then OMU come to see me. They said, we don't know what it is, kid, but you're in a little bit of luck. I said, why? Because there's a lad in HMP High Point, which is around the corner. I was in Norfolk. This bloke was in Suffolk. So it's round the corner. Now, this lad's from Middlesbrough. So when they give him Cat D, he's got to go to his local area, which is HMP Kirklevington. So that bus literally drives straight past HMP Wayland. So I said, but when he's driving past, we thought we'd chuck you in it. You're right with that. I said, that's brilliant. You know what I mean? A tear came to my eye. And so finally that bus collected me. And then it picked me up quite early in the morning. They don't tell you the day they're leaving, but they just tell you that you're going to go. So they came and got me very early in the morning. There was again, some high-ranking governors and officers there. There were some security officers as well. I don't know if they thought I'd probably be tried to go on the run or something, but that's definitely something I would not be doing. And so they put me on the bus, and then they took me up to Kirklevington. We left there really early, about 6, 7 a.m. Well, about 7 a.m., half 7 a.m. Then we got up to Kirklevington about 5 hours later. And then they took care of all the other inmates who were in reception at Kirklevington first. So I actually complained. I was like, I got here first, and you've dealt with these 3-4 buggers. And then he come out, he goes, if I was you, I'd keep my mouth shut. I was like, all right. so typical moaning all habit starts kicking in. And then he got rid of everyone. And then the officer come out. I can't remember this officer's name, but I knew he liked me. But he acted like he didn't like me because I think that set the precedent of our future relationship for the next year and a half. And then he goes, he said, he goes, now you can come in. So I came in. He goes, the reason we kept you till last is because of who you are and what you've done. And there's people here that need to talk to you. Is that all right with you? I said, yeah, that'll do me. I said, as long as I know. He goes, oh, well, I've let you know now. Is that all right? And then I thought to myself, I've got to play this one carefully. I can see him getting pissed off with my kind of sense of humour quite quickly. And so some, important governors, high-ranking officers, they were in the wing. They were like, Guramit, we know what, in the reception with me, we know what you've been through. We're here to help you. It's been a long fight to get us there. Because the governor of, the number one governor, Chris Rodford, OBE, of Wayland, very important governor, he was ringing around for Cat D's to have me, and Kirklevington wouldn't have me. And then what happened, the number one governor, Angie Petit, at Kirklevington at the time, had refused me to come to Kirklev. But the security governor there, he called up HMP Wayland says, send him, I'll take care of him. So the security governor of Kirklevington got me up to Kirklev. So I owe him a big favour. And so, yeah, they got me up there, and I kind of, I had a tear in my eye, and there was this officer who worked for the OMU department. She gave me a big hug. She goes, don't worry, I've spoke to your mum and everything. I've let them know you're all right because you've not ring like you usually, you've not called like you usually in the morning. I cried, you know what I mean? I cried, you know what I mean? I was like, finally, I could start doing my prison sentence in peace. Because with me, it wasn't a case of just getting home. It was getting home alive in one piece to my family, not getting all marked up or kettled up or something. So that was my job, and I thought I finally got here.
What is the transition psychologically? Your adrenaline's been going full tilt, constantly.
Yeah,
then now you've landed somewhere where that threat isn't as great.
There was no threat there. There was zero threat. There was nothing.
So how does that affect you psychologically?
I felt like I was home. I just felt it's just relief, happiness, peace, gratefulness. I only found out about the story with the security governor when I was working there. Members of the security department at HMP Kirklevington told me. They said, "Do you know what happened for you to get here?" And so a lot happened in the background to get me up to Kirklev. It wasn't a simple case of he wants to go to Kirklev, there's a bus passing, let's get him on it. It wasn't that. A lot more happened. Meetings happened. I think real official people got involved to get me up there, to keep me safe. Because that's the thing, like I've always said it with HMP Wayland, them officers, they lived by their word. They lived by their duty to Crown and Country. They work for, His Majesty's service as it is now. And in my eyes, the very cornerstone, the bedrock of their business is a duty of care to your inmates, regardless of what that inmate's done or if you like them or not. That is their job. They fulfilled that duty to me. In HMP Stocken, they didn't even consider the duty to me. But obviously in Nottingham and Ranby, there was sound, but I didn't have no serious threats in Ranby, so they didn't have to get too involved with me. They could just leave me to it. But in HMP Wayland, they really took care of me.
So they've got a responsibility to keep you alive.
100%, yeah. Duty of care, yeah.
So the ones who just fobbed that off,
Ranby.
If you'd have been killed there, wouldn't they have suffered huge consequences?
Well, people die in jail all the time, and a lot of people say that it's suicide, and you get people dying all the time. I heard of people dying in Stocken. In Stocken, there's lads that would go to their cell, and let's say they've had an argument with an officer. 2-3 hours later, you hear the door open and you hear, ow! And then that door was shut. Next morning, you wake up and lad's got a black eye. That's what Stocken was like. They'd go in and give you an eye in. People died in Stocken. People died in Wayland. I've seen people die in every single prison I've been in. Now, fair enough, some situations have been suicide, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of them situations are the officer's fault. They've either allowed an inmate get attacked by other inmates, or maybe they've done the attacking themselves.
But what makes your case different is you'd been flagged up as you've got a hit on you.
Precisely, yeah.
So if they ignore that and let you die, then surely they're going to face 100%, consequences.
Yeah. Just like in HMP Stocken, they had intelligence of who I was. You can't tell me, when you're on a wing, a security wing, and there's a camera outside every single cell, and 10 Muslims enter the cell of the founding leader of the English Defence League, and you've got a cage with 10, 15 officers in, watching the cameras. You know what I mean? Of course they've allowed that to happen. You know, if I would have died, that's their fault. It's not necessarily the Muslims' fault. They could have stopped it, prevented that from happening. It's always prevention instead of cure. That's what I say. They could have stopped it, prevented it, made sure I wasn't on that wing. They could have done everything what they're paid to do, what they're trained to do. The oath they have taken, they did not fulfill any of that.
And what do you think was motivating them?
Because in HMP Stocken, the majority of the people in there are Pakistani Muslims. Now, if you've got if there's a problem within the Pakistani community in HMP Stocken, the officers get a problem. I was a problem. While I was in Stocken, there was inmates on other wings from Nottingham assaulting Muslims because of what happened to me. That happened. That's a fact. That was one of the reasons the governor wanted me out of there. He said to me, "You're causing disruption in my jail." I had done bugger all. I've not even left the wing. I've done nothing apart from clean your bloody wing for you, you cheeky bugger. You know what I mean? And took you £7 a week bloody salary for it. And so me being there was a problem to them because I was disrupting their community, and their community did not want me there. That community had them officers in that prison in the palm of their hand. That's precisely what it was.
All right, so when you found peace in Kirklevington...
In Kirklevington, yeah.
How did your daily routine change?
So it was quite similar to... But obviously, it's an open jail, so your door's open all day and night long. Kirklevington is not like other like Category D jails. Kirklevington does have a fence around it, so you can't just, get on your toes and leg it. I'll tell you a hilarious story. There's a governor's office there, and there's a fence. So this is the fence. So there's a fence that you can jump and get out, okay? So this lad jumped this fence, fell, broke both of his legs. Instead of jumping over the fence that gets you out of the jail, he jumped over the fence that gets you into the governor's courtyard. So from there, you've actually got another fence to go over. He broke both his legs, all right? I had an operation on my arm because I got bloody tennis elbow while I was in Ranby, cleaning all them bloody dishes all day night long. So I had a topaz operation. When I went to the hospital, old laughing boy was on the bloody stretcher next to me, 2 broken legs. So in Kirklevington, I'd wake up in the morning. You'd go and get your breakfast. There's a big dining hall. Everybody goes to the dining hall together. I'm in there by myself. This is the first time I've even been to the northeast. I've never even been up. Well, I organised a demonstration back in the day to Newcastle, but apart from that, I know nothing about the area. I know nobody in there. I know not a single human being in there. Bumped into a couple of people that went to EDL demos, but you know what? Since early on in my prison life, I'd said to myself, be very careful who you have around you. So just because a bloke comes up to me and say, "You're that Guramit Singh, nice one, shake your hand," it don't mean he's a good bloke. You know what I mean? I need to give it a bit of time. So a couple of Sikh lads came to see me, and that, because of my community, my religion, that kind of immediately, I was like, all right. Saw a couple of Jamaican lads from Leeds. Yeah, so all that. And then, they give me a job in the gardens. I was doing the gardens. And then they've got a big outside, veg patch, flowers, all that, polytunnels. The governor actually come to me. She goes, "Oh, after reading your report, we think you'd be quite good at helping out with them flowers." I was like, that weren't actually me. So all during this whole period of me being in prison, every single week, my officer was ringing the police and asking about that charge. So nothing had come. Miss Lister says, "I think they're just done with it." I said, "We'll see." So then, from the gardens, they moved me over to the cafeteria. So when everybody had ate the food, I'd go around cleaning everything up. I was all right. I'd go there twice a day, where doors open all day. I loved it. I felt like it was like a hotel. It's like a SHIT hotel. But it was like that. And then what happened? The governors came to me, and they said, "Guramit, we've got a job in the governor's mansion." Now, there's a big stately home there, and within that stately home is the officers for every governor. Now, every governor in there does not just control HMP Kirklevington. There's another local Cat C jail called HMP Home House. So the number one governors for both jails are based in that office. I said, "You telling me you want me to be in an office where I clean the rooms of all the high-ranking governors in this area of the country, like, yeah, I said, sign me up. Because now you've put me, it's because you need to put yourself around the right people in life if you want to get ahead somewhere. I mean, Sean, even today when I walked in earlier, I was like, have you got any other podcast mates you think I can go on? You know what I mean? I'm even doing that with you. I'm not a user, but I'll always
networking.
Networking, yeah, I'll always try and make the best of a bad situation, or, you know, even in this predicament, yeah, like network. And then, so they put me in there. I was cleaning the rooms every day. You know, I used to have a laugh and a joke with them. You know, they're just normal people. And a couple of stories come out about me and stuff. They used to ask me a lot of questions. They used to bring in officers from other prisons to sit me down and ask my advice on Islam and issues that they were having in their prison. What's my advice, what I would do. That's what they used to do. That happened numerous times in Kirklevington. It's not a lie. It happened numerous times with high-ranking governors, OMU officers, OMU CMs, Free Stripes, custodial managers. They used to bring in other officers, governors. Can you give us advice on this? You know, you're asking Guramit Singh from the English Defence League, where you've got a whole monologue, you've got a country dedicated to gathering this sort of intelligence. You can't even go there for help, but you're coming to me because you know you're going to get the right damn truth from me. And so I was there for a little bit. Now in category, what basically happened then? So I must have been in the jail then I was in Kirklevington for about 1 year, 6-7 months in total. So I was in the prison for about 3-4 months then. And then what happens in Kirklevington? There comes that day when you've got to get a job. Oh, bloody hell, I've never had a job in my life. But before that, I thought, how can I get away with getting a job? Now, the actual prison had jobs where you could drive inmates to their jobs. So you'd work for the prison, you use one of the prison cars or their trucks or their minivans, and you would drive inmates to work. So I'd drop him off at his job, him off at his job, him off at his job. I'd go and get myself a steak. And then I'd go pick them up and bring them back. I thought, this is bloody perfect. and then I'm allowed to have a mobile phone there in the locker at reception. I brought my American Express card with me. All right, they found out about that. They went crazy. And then I just brought a debit card, loaded it with cash when I was. I told my mum to load it up with cash, and she just sent it in to me. So wherever I went, I had my card, so I had money. So when I was dropping people off, I could go to Tesco, buy a CD, buy a drink, sit down, have a meal. I did take the piss out of it a little bit, but they said to me I could eat when I was out. So if I was sitting down and having a steak, that's the same to me as having a bloody McDonald's, you know what I mean? But I think they were more going in the direction of getting a quick sandwich. But, you know, I took the mickey a little bit there, but I thought, bugger it, I'm here now. And then but then what happened is the officers finally come from HMP Nottingham. I woke up one morning and, not HMP, sorry, the police officers came from Nottinghamshire. Woke up one morning, officer says, you got a visit. I said, I ain't got no visit. It's no visit plan, it's a legal visit. I thought, my solicitor's not rung me. He's not talked to me about anything. So basically, they put me in the visits room with the police officer. He goes, look, we're charging you for that from them years ago.
Green.
I said, we're charging you for that green from years ago. I was like, my solicitor was actually there as well. So my solicitor found out about it the day beforehand. But obviously, because I'm in prison, he can't get word to me that quickly. He did have my mobile phone number, but unless I'm out the jail, that mobile phone number, you can't hold it because I've got to leave it in reception when I come back into the prison. So my solicitor actually found out that they were going to charge me the day before. So when the officer from Nottingham police came up to HMP Kirklevington, he came up as well. So luckily, I had representation. And they weren't in there to question me, they just charged me outright. And I said to my solicitor, I was like, my solicitor said, we've been ringing you every week. And my lawyer turned around to me, he goes, we kind of did have in the back of their heads, this is what would happen. You'd get to Cat D, and for them to mess up your progression and you being in Cat D, they're going to hit you with another charge. Now, when you're in Category D prison, you get hit with another charge, you go back to Cat C. So when I walked out of that room, the officer turns around to me. He goes, Amit, help us out with this. There was a pile of boxes in the block. They've got a little block there. It's only 3-4 cells. And then he goes, help me out with them. I went to pick him up. He locked the door. He goes, I'm sorry, Amit. I was like, bloody hell. And then my lawyer's there screaming and shouting and arguing. You can't do that to him. This is a game. He's not done bugger all wrong. And then they were like, look, this is the rule. He's obviously going back to Cat C now. And then obviously my lawyer had to leave, so he had to leave through that way. And then I could swear him walking past, he's on his phone. I'm sat there, I thought, bloody hell, I'm going back into that system now. But I think to myself, hopefully, they're not going to send me back to Wayland, but they can send me to one of these Cat Cs in the local area, which I know I'll be fine, because I've already researched into the prison dynamics of how the religious build-up works out in these areas, so I knew I'd be fine. But I was gutted. I thought, I've been here 3-4 months. I was really getting on. I was just about to start going home. Because you have a lay-down period of like 3 months. And I was just coming to the end of that, so I could start going home for a day, then start going home for 5 days. On my Rottles released on temporary licences. And then a governor come down, security governor. He come down, open the door, lock the door. I poke, because he got 2 cells in there, the block. Both the cell doors were open. I'm sat there thinking, what the hell am I going to do now? Then the gate opened, and then the gate shut. I poked my head round, and the security governor, he's like, "You right there, Callery?" I was like, "I've been better." He come in, put his feet up. He goes, "Yes, you were going to HMP Home House, but I've just found out what's happened to you, and I've just discussed it with all the other governors, and we're all in agreement that you've been stitched up. So what we're going to do is not send you to HMP Home House. We're going to keep you here while this court case happens." Now, when you do eventually go to court, I think the court day was booked in for a couple of weeks' time, but we had that changed, and I'll tell you why. He goes, when you do go back to court, and if they give you an extra sentence to serve, and that sentence goes above the 2 years you're allowed to stay here. So I've been in there 3 months, so I've got about 1 year, 4 months left to do. So if I was to get 6 months more added onto my sentence, they said for that period, you'll go to a Cat C jail. And then when it comes to 2 years, you'll come back here. They said, if you stay within that 2 year period, you'll stay here and you'll progress and nothing will happen. But he goes, we're not going to kick you out now. We're going to keep you here. But we know you were supposed to go home next week for the first time. We know you've been working for the prison, going out and about. You can't leave this jail. I said, fair enough, I'm happy with that. So I couldn't leave the jail again. I was supposed to start going home in a week's time. I couldn't do none of that. Put me back on bloody gardens. Oh, here we go. Freezing as well, winter time. Freezing cold. It was horrible. So then a couple of weeks later, I was due in court, and I'm ringing my solicitor, and my solicitor says, he goes, look, I'm going to postpone your court case for a week. I said, bugger that, the court case is this Friday, let's just get it done. They were doing it via video link from HMP Home House, so I didn't have to travel to Crown Court in Nottingham. He goes, trust me for this. I said, why? So basically, a week later, I went to court, and they put me in front. I went to HMP Home House to do the video link. They put me in front of this judge. My solicitor stood up, told the judge what happened. The judge turned around. He was furious. The police officers have had this for you, about you, for all these years, and they've done nothing. You wasted. He was banging away. The police officer, CPS, Crown Prosecution Service, stood up. Sit down. I don't want to hear it. He looked at it, he goes, oh. And he's gone guilty. The lawyer was like, he went guilty the day they asked him about it. He goes, he didn't want no harm coming to his tenant. He says, yeah, it's all mine, guilty, job done. Nothing more to do. Looks at me, Mr. Callery, are you all right if I give you 6 months concurrent to run alongside what I'm doing already? I said, that'll do, Your Honour. He goes, right, get him back to his prison. Walked out. I walked onto the wing. All the governors are there waiting to see what happened to me. What happened? Obviously, the officers who took me from Kirklevington to Home House, they turned around. They were in there as well. They looked at me and said, you lucky bell. They said, who you paid? who have you paid off? I walked onto the wing. The governor was like, we've just heard what's happened. And now I'll get back to why my solicitor had the court case delayed. My solicitor had news that this judge despises when police officers keep evidence that can prosecute criminals for years and years and years, because he knows the tactic they're using. He knows they're trying to keep hold of that, and then last minute they come in and they get more bird. It ruins them psychology, mentally. I think even gate arrest is illegal nowadays because it's against the human right. So my solicitor had found out about this judge, and my solicitor had wangled it. So when I was sore in front of that judge. Wow. And that's why I pay him the money I pay him. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I went back to the wing, went back to Kirklevington. I was allowed to start going home and everything. So I started going home. And then obviously, you've got to get a proper job. They can't have me driving inmates around all the time. I've got to get a proper job. There was a lad there I got on really well with called Darryl French. He was from Darlington. And so Darryl French was working. I don't want to go into the details of this family too much. Oh. I don't want them all over the place, but I'll give you the outline of it. Darryl French was working for probably one of the 100% one of the most influential families in this country. I'll tell you afterwards, Sean. He was working at a hotel spa resort they owned in the northeast. When I worked there, I was working. Darryl French said to me, I'll get you a job there because me and you get on. I had a car at prison. So it'll help him get to work and back. So we work as a team. We were good friends, We're still friends to this day. He came down all the way by himself from Darlington last year to my wedding, stayed for a couple of days. The boy's my soul. I love him to bits. Hey up, Darryl. And so he got me a job at this hotel, spa, 5-star hotel resort thing. All right, so we're inmates and we're at the jail every day. We're driving to work. We're working. We're doing housekeeping, so we're cleaning the rooms. Somebody's left the hotel. We clean the rooms, do all that. Do a little bit of cleaning, a little bit of laundry, all that. One day I was told by the owner of the hotel's daughter, who actually really runs the hotel, she needed some help up in this a glass house that they were building where they were going to sell all these decorations for Christmas and stuff. It's very upmarket place. So I started working there. And what basically happened was when I was working there was a few other people that were dragged out of other departments that worked there full time. And we were all there at the same time, but they were very, very lazy. But me, you know, I was just like, the way I see it, I've never had a proper job. It's been decades since I've had a proper job because I've always been self-employed. And I thought to myself, well, this woman's paying me. She tells me to jump, I jump. That's the way I see jobs. That's how it is. You give me the money, I do what you need me to do. So I'm in there rushing around, doing it all. She came in, she gave all these lads a in. She's like, he's done all of that. You've done nothing here. Stand here, complain, bugger off. Then she got me in a Range Rover and drove me back down to the hall. And she goes, thank you very much for that, Amit. Now, what happened was she would then start eventually calling my manager, which was a housekeeping manager, who obviously works for her. She'd call her and say, where is that Amit lad in? And they're like, no. Will you call him, please? She was like, he's one of the inmates. She's like, doesn't matter, call him. So every day they're calling up the prison asking for me. And then the prison turned around and said, who is this woman that keeps asking for our inmate? And when they found out who she was, then, bloody hell, the minute they called, they'd be at my door. Get up, you lazy bugger. They want you now. Go on, off you go. I'm not going now. Go on, go. She's calling you. You know what I mean? That family was that influential. They'd make the bloody officers and the governors there jump. You know what I mean? We're talking millionaires on another level, on a historic family. They write books about these people. I'll tell you afterwards. I know guests here would love to know, but I'm not involved in their family's name in any of my podcasts. I'd hate for the sort of nice relationship I have with everybody who worked at that hotel to go sour in any way. You know?
Yeah, of course.
So I got on really well, and then she was always calling me in and doing bits and bobs there and stuff. So, you know, I came home and told my father who I was working for, and he was like, bloody hell, do you know who that is? So, you know, I was really moving along. I was going home once a fortnight for the day. I'd drive home, back to Nottingham, drive back. I was going home once a month for 5 days, you know, go home for 5 days, come back. So, yeah, I was living it. You know what I mean? I had a couple of Christmases in there. And then, you know, really good time. And you know what? When I was working at that famous hall for that famous family, and with them incredible women that I was working with at housekeeping, and when I was with the family, you know, I really felt at home. I felt that the Northeast is my heart. You know what I mean? And it has been since. Because when I was around that family, I learned a lot about the property market up there. And since coming home, you know, I've opened my own business. I had a few funds knocking around. I did a bit of cash raising myself. I got some people involved. I have a money man behind me in future projects, but he helped me back in the day. But since I've been home, I've been buying up houses in the Northeast, Teesside mainly, County Durham areas, cheap houses, and just renting them out through agents. So I built quite a nice little portfolio up there right now. We're just going into development and stuff, but that's a whole different ballgame, and that's in London, but that's something completely different. But yeah, so, and it all came from being in that area, in that prison, working for that family in that hall. If it wasn't for all that, I could probably be in prison on a bigger charge. So yeah, so it saved my life. The Northeast definitely saved my life. All them people, that area, that prison, that hotel, it saved my life. It 100% did. I can bow down to that. So obviously I was there, and you know, we were about 3 weeks. I was, you know, did the rest of my time in peace at Kirklevington. Everything was cracking on, and we were about 3 weeks from getting released. Now it was my release date was 1st of March 2017. Well, where I was the hotel I was working at, they had a Christmas party at the end of January, at the middle of February, because obviously they don't have the Christmas parties at Christmas being a hotel because that's when they're busy. So they wait for the old festivity period of Christmas and New Year to end, and that's when they have the staff Christmas parties. So I turned around to the security governor at the time. I was like, it's all right, me and my mate go to this Christmas party, we do work there. And they all had a conversation, like, well, they are part of the staff there and everything. We want people to get back into society. So me and my mate went there and we got hammered. It was the biggest mistake. Me and Daryl, the minute he got in that bloody car, I was like, what's that you popping? Don't worry about it, just get me there. I'm going to be on it in 5 minutes. He was sweating by the time we got there. We got in there and we got pissed. And I'm driving there. You're talking like old country lanes around the corner. You don't see life forever. The only thing you see out there are badgers and deers. And we got there and we ended up going to the Christmas party and we got bloody bladdered. And then I got in my car and I drove back to the prison, and obviously we got caught. So obviously what happened was I was spraying ourselves to death. The screws were ringing up my phone. Where the hell are you? Where are you? I was like, we're on the way. And then Daryl turns around. tell him to effing shut up. I'm listening to 50 Cent. I was like, Daryl, you know what I mean? Didn't have Bluetooth in the car in them days, you know what I mean? And then so bloody got back to the jail. I'm spraying. I changed my clothes. I had clothes in the boot. I changed all my clothes, sprayed myself. I said, Daryl, you need to calm down because you've been on it. I thought, yeah, I'll be all right. I'll be all right. chewing his jaw off to some of them things you used to sell back in the day. And then I walked into reception. Where you been, Calorite? I said, I'm sorry. It overrun. I've been in contact with you. We're 20 minutes late. Job done. We're here now. Goes, right, back to the wing. I walked straight through. Then through comes Frenchie. When Frenchie comes through, I knew he was getting nicked. So when I got back to the wing, I hid under one of my mates' beds. I didn't go in myself. 'Cause I thought if I can hide from them till the morning, I said I'll be all right. They come on the way, Gallery, where are you? Looked at myself. Right, if you don't get out now, I'm turning over every single cell. So obviously they found out he was off his nut, then they came back to the wing for me. So I thought, I can't have like 40 men on this wing, disrupt everybody's sleep. They're going to hate me. So I got out and said, I'm here, Gov. Back to reception now, then they breathalyzed me. I was pissed when you know what I mean? And so, yeah, big mistake. So that night, they let us back on the wing. When they come to me in the morning, he goes, you still stink of alcohol now. How the hell did you get through reception? I said, it's all a bit of distance. It's like all that. And then, so the next morning they put us on the block and then they shipped us both out to HMP Home House. I let myself down. I let my family down. I let the governors down. I let everybody down. 2 weeks later from Home House, I was released. All my stuff was at Kirklev. So I just got a taxi from Home House to Kirklev, got in my car, got all my stuff. Even the governors that I've been so close to working with, officers I was so close to working with, working for, everyone had a look of disappointment in their face. And in my life, I've done a lot of, I wouldn't say wrong, but, I've pissed my family off quite a lot. My mother has put up with quite a bit with me. I'm not as prim and proper as my little brother. I mean, I put him through private school. He's a little bit of a different lad to me, but it was because of my lifestyle that actually made that happen in the first place, and my hard-working mother and grandmother. But my mother has never really flipped out and shouted at me and gone, hey, when I was thrown out of Kirklevington and I had to put the call in from Home House, I actually lied to her. She goes, how are you? You all right? I said, yes, Anne, just been to work, come back. The governors had already rung her and told her what happened. She flipped. Don't ring my phone again. Don't ever call me. When I was calling the home afterwards, she'd pick up the phone and put it down. My mother's never done that to me. My mother's never done that. So, because she knew how good it was, because I was coming home all the time. And it was at a time where, when I went to prison, my brother went to university and I could help out with that when I was going. But when I was coming home, he wanted to do a master's. They needed cash for that. And then luckily, because I was coming home, I made that happen. You didn't get loans for that in them days. So I made that happen. So the family were getting better. Everything was, and then I messed it up. Even though it was 3 weeks, it could have been 3 hours. My mum was still furious. So that's the first time she's ever been like that with me. So I hardly spoke to her at all when I was ringing home. My grandma used to talk to me. My dad would say, you're a pillock. But they know what I'm like. You put a couple of lads like us in that situation. We shouldn't have done it, but 9 times out of 10, we're going to do it. You know what I mean? Hey, at least we're not going out robbing people with knives and guns no more. You know what I mean? But yeah, and then finally I left Home House where they threw me out to, went back to Kirklev, got my car, got my stuff, came home. First thing I did was write a letter to the governors of the prison and, with a deep, heartfelt letter, just apologise. And then obviously since then I've been going up there weekly. Well, at first I was going up there 3-4 times a week, going out viewing houses and buying them and stuff left, right and centre. I don't really go up much now because agents take care of everything, but I still have to pop by now and then just to keep an eye on things. But yeah, the North East is definitely my home. It's my heart. Well, it's not my home. I don't live there, but I wish it was. But my heart's definitely in the North East.
What was Home House like?
Pardon?
Home House?
Sound as out. As long as you put me in a prison, there's no Muslims, I'm happy. So it was sound. So it don't matter if it's A-cat, B-cat, C-cat, D-cat, whatever. Home House was very violent on the wings. You know what I mean? A lot of travellers, lads and stuff like that. There was a lot of issues like that.
What did you see in there?
Not much, mate. I was there for 3 weeks. Put me on there, put me on the wing. The officers came to me. The security officers and governors that are at Kirklevington, they're the same security officers and governors at Home House. It's, the father, sister jail, father, mother jail. So they came to me. One thing I was worried about is they sent me back to HMP Wayland. But they came to me, they said, look, you're not going Wayland, you're staying here. And they said, all right. So I was only there 3 weeks. Put me on the wing. Officers come, induction come. Like, there's no point you even having a job. You're going home in 14 days, a day. You get there 3-4 days before you see induction. A couple more days pass. You go education, get your gym membership thing. I've got a week left. Frenchie was leaving a week before me, so he went. I got this ginger lad in with me. He was sound. So I didn't really see much. just kept my head down. I came out on association twice a day, and that was it. I banged up in my cell. Then I went home, so I didn't really see anything. But there was a little bit of violence there, you know what I mean? But nothing I really saw, just things I hear about.
How long did you serve total on that one?
In an OMAS?
No, in the whole sentence.
Everything.
How long was that?
Call it 2 months below 5 years, so 4 year, 10 month.
4
I did
years,
inside.
10 months.
4 years, 10 months.
So I did 5 3/4, so similar.
It's a big bird, isn't it, when you do that long?
There's a bit of adjustment, isn't there, when you get out?
Did you ever get to Cat D?
I was in America.
Oh, you were in America,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's different.
You see, with me, because I was in Category D, and that's the whole point of a Category D prison, so people can start getting back to their life and stuff. So I was going home once a fortnight for a day, and then once a month I'm going home for 5 consecutive days and nights. So I had that kind of adjustment getting back into it. When I came home, you know, like my spidey senses were always about, but I was a lot more comfortable at home because I thought, now I'm on my territory, so you're kind of on my patch now, so I've got a lot more control here compared to prison. So it was just more of a relief when I came home.
How long ago was it when you were released? What year?
1st of March 2017.
2017.
And so I've got another 5-year probation to do. So obviously I can't. You see, when I got released from Kirklevington, my index offence is all about attempted robbery, extortion, demanding money with menaces, assault, etc., etc. When you get released from prison, they give you documentation, your probation paperwork. It's the do's and don'ts, what you can do, what you can't do. I had 8 pages, double-sided, so that's 16 pages in total. 15 of them pages from the beginning were: don't associate with Tommy Robinson, don't do nothing with EDO, don't organise demonstrations, don't do speeches, don't do this. You're talking 15 pages. You know, on the 16th page, after this 8-letter dossier, by the way, you know that geezer that you were supposed to have tied up and battered? Will you keep away from him and his family? So all of it was about my EDO career. Nothing was about my index offence till right at the end. So it kind of shows you, you know, what was the real reason I was in prison.
It's like it didn't say don't do podcasts.
Pardon?
It didn't say don't do podcasts.
No, you're right there. You're right there. Yeah, you're okay there. And even if it did do, it'd be me getting nicked, not you.
I've already been nicked once because of a guest.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
I've got a caution.
Have you really?
Yeah, because we were reporting on PDF files.
Yeah.
And a guest came on and said someone who was a victim, but that person was a minor and named them.
Right, okay,
and I'm
got
the
you.
publisher.
Yeah, right,
So
got
I'm
you. So it
liable.
comes back to you. Yeah, I suppose it's very
Yeah.
complicated with illegalities when it comes to your sort of game.
Yeah.
So that's the end of my prison sentence. I went home, I built the business. You know, it comes quite strong. I've just had some investment land. I mean, the geezers are in England now with the investment. We're going to start going into another business. They're really helping me out, really pushing me forward. Some amazing people. So I've got a feeling something incredible is going to happen before the end of the year's out. So I'm looking forward to the future. You know, I've been out, since 2017. So we've been building. Now I'm back involved with Tommy, the movement and etc. That's why I'm coming. Bringing myself out there. While I was in prison, mate, I lost a lot of confidence in myself. There was a bit of my mojo that was took from me, you know? I did lose that. I had it stripped from me. I've started to find it again in the last couple of years.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, so, because, I mean, my wife will tell me, you know, sometimes I just like to be alone by myself in deepest thoughts. When I'm in my car, which is like my office, it's kind of like my happy space when I'm by myself. Anywhere I'm alone became very comfortable to me. That's all obviously had to change. You know, I'm married now and everything. Been with my wife for 4 years, got married a year ago. So I'm still actually adjusting to that part of life. You know, I still like to have them times to myself. You know, that's kind of embedded in me now. But my confidence and my mojo and them sort of parts that actually made me as a man who I am, they've started coming back to me now. And I think I'm moving in the right direction. That's why I'm eager to do these podcasts with gentlemen such as yourself.
Going back to before this incarceration, how many other incarcerations did you have?
6, 7, but everything was just like a couple months here, a few months here, a few months there. Nothing too much. Yeah, maybe drink driving, bit of fraud, selling some green, just a couple of bits of fight here and there, just like a few months here, a few months there. A lot of taggings, a lot of community service, bloody hell, community service. I think I'd rather go to jail than ever do community service again in my life. But a lot of little bits and bobs like that growing up. Yeah.
So you must have done about a couple of years total.
I worked out the total year I've spent of my life in prison is 8 years.
What?
So 3 years on top of that. But that was always like 3 months here, 4 months there, 5 months there, 6 months there. But it adds up like that. If you put it all together, 8 years of my life in jail, yeah.
So what was the first incarceration?
The first incarceration was when I was done for an assault when I was 16 years old. I took a load of lads to a college once to beat a load of lads up that had beat up my friend at a college party a few weeks beforehand. I got done for community service and I got done, and then I got community service and stuff like that. But I never turned up to my community service, and I never turned up to my probation or anything. So they locked me up and gave me 6 months. So I did 3 months, and then they give me 3 months on tag. But when they give me the tag, I cut the tag off, and then I got nicked for that, so they sent me back again. So I kept pissing about like that. So that was the first. That was about, I was 17 when that happened.
Where did they send you?
Glenparva. They sent me Glenparva, and then I turned into 18, and that's when I went to Ranby.
Aren't they like gladiator schools, these younger family
Pardon?
ones? Isn't it like a gladiator school in there?
I think nowadays they're getting quite bad, but in my days it was like you know, a holiday camp. Really,
Was it?
Yeah, it was nothing. There weren't nothing serious about it. It didn't remind me of anything like a prison. Glenparva was just like a little bit of a built-up Cat D back in the day. I only did a couple months there. Then when I came out on my tagging, I'd actually turned 18. So when I did finally get arrested again, they sent me HMP Nottingham and then Ranby and stuff, and it just did a few months. And it was always out, and then I'd get a sentence of community service or tagging, and I wouldn't do it. Then they took me in there for a few months. It just all tabbed up like that over the years. Just all for being a little bit of a prat, really. You know what I mean?
And did you get in any situations during those incarcerations?
Never, not once. Never once. You got to understand, we started the English Defence League in 2008. So all these incarcerations are between the years of like 98 to 2004, maybe 2005. And that's it. I kind of matured then.
But you must have seen some violence going around you in those incarcerations. There must
Yeah,
have been
well,
some.
not really in them days. I didn't see anything. No, not really. No, not really. No. Well, maybe I just wasn't that aware of it. But in them days, not really. But this thing, well, as a grown man, you know, in these fully grown men jails, and it was a different thing, yeah.
Looking back then, what's been the lowest point for you in your life?
The lowest point, it would have been the whole prison sentence. Yeah, 100%. Definitely, 100% the prison sentence. Not just everything of what I experienced, but everything. What brought me down the most wasn't what I was going through. It's what potentially my family would be going through. So what my mother and my grandmother and my brother would be thinking. That was 100% the lowest point of my life.
And you said you didn't want them visiting you.
No, I didn't. They visit me. My whole sentence, I did nearly 5 years. When I was at Kirklevington, bloody, my mum couldn't get enough of it. She'd come up like a few times a week if she could do. I had to tell her, look, calm down. She goes, I'm coming. And so, you know, for the first 6-7 months, obviously with the court case and everything, I had difficulties with getting home. But after that, I was coming home all the time. But even in that 4 or 5 month period, they visited me more times in Kirklevington than they had done throughout my whole prison period. I can tell you how many times they visited me. They visited me once in Ranby, and they visited me once in Wayland. That was it. So that's like 2.5 years into my sentence, they visited me twice. Then in Kirklevington, they visited me about 5 times, and then I started coming home.
Did you have mates visiting you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I had friends visit me in all jails. Yeah. I've got a couple of good friends of mine. You know what? You've given me an opportunity now, because a couple of my best friends, a couple of Jamaican lads I grew up with, every time I do a podcast, they're always like, oh, nice one. We've known you all these effing years. You can't even mention us. So big shout out to Nick and Dixon's. You know what I mean? Yeah, so they came all the time. Nick tells me a story, you know, because when I was in Stocken, and they come to visit me, and everything actually had happened to me. And then he told me a couple of days later. Actually, it wasn't. He didn't tell me immediately. He says, he told me, he goes, I told you when you were safe and you were in a better mood. But he goes, you know, when we left that jail, he goes, Dixon's knew how hurt you were. And Dixon's practically was crying in the car on the way home. Now, my brother Dixon is a tall Jamaican family man, you know what I mean? He's a real, you know, his family, him and his family, well, all my friends and their families are incredible. But, you know, to hear that, it even affected my friends in that way, you know? And so, and then Nick will make a laugh like, I didn't give an SHIT. If that was me, I would have given you a bloody good hiding as well. But, you know, but yeah, he told me that. So it did even affect my friends, because whenever my people know me, they know me as a kind of a strong, you know, confident guy. And then, you know, when that's taken from you completely and you're not that, people get worried about you. So yeah, so obviously it's affected my friends as well.
Yeah, so visits and receiving mail like gold in prison, aren't they?
You what?
It's like gold, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, my friends came like quite a lot. I had a lot of friends come. You know what I mean? Them boys, Nick and Dixon, visit me quite a hell of a lot. Every jail I was in, they came multiple times. You know what I mean? I had people from all over the country come visit me, but family, no. You know what I mean? Like a few times.
And what was the protocol for a visit? Is it like, depends on your security level, you sat at a table with them, you can...
Yeah.
What's the rules?
All the visits in all the prisons I've been into, you get called from reception, you get pointed to another holding office next to the visits department, you go in and do your visits, and you do your visits over a table. Now, if you're not very well behaved, or you've got issues, or you've had history of maybe taking drugs or mobile phones in prison, on prison visits, they put you in a room, and it's got like a dividing plexiglass in the middle of it. So they'll have one seat one side, one seat the other side. So you can talk to each other, but you can't touch each other because you've got this plexiglass. And then if it's a lot more serious, I think what they do is they just have video link visits, and that's how they do it. And video link visits are actually quite popular now in a lot of jails. I've got a few friends that I visit in jail at the moment. I've not done it with them, but there's always signs on the walls and stuff how you can video link them instead of turning up. So I suppose that makes it a lot easier on families and stuff to keep in contact.
So where I was at, if you're on a visit with your family, that's off limits for gang gangs and gang members attacking each other, violence. If you've got a hit on you and you're in a UK prison and you're at a visit, is it off limits that they can hit you at the visit?
I don't think their morals exist to that level in this country. I don't think they've got morals about it when they get you, when they don't get you. When Nick and Dixon's did visit me in HMP Stocken, and that's the time Nick told me about when Dixon's was quite upset and stuff when he left. When they did visit me, I cut that visit short because what had happened was I can understand like Pakistani boys, Urdu, they're a bit of Punjabi. I can understand their languages because me being a Sikh Punjabi lad myself, so I can understand what they're saying. They were planning on attack already in that visit when we come out. So you get put in this holding cell and then you go out to your visits. Then when your visits are over, all of you boys are back in the holding cell. They were planning something already. So I overheard them and I told their boys, I was like, look, I'm going to have to cut this short. I'm off. Turn around to the officer, send me back to the wing, please. So if you leave that visit early, and then I turned around to the officer, I said, look, I know what they're doing, they're planning something. The officer just like, all right, I'll take you back to the wing. Then he took me straight back to the wing because I weren't going to put myself in a room with 30, 40 lads and, same again. So that did actually happen. So I did actually cut that visit short. So to answer your question, seems like no. They don't have their morals here, no.
Do you get any like decent vending machine food in visits?
No, you don't really have vending machines, but you'll have like a visits orderly or a little counter where you can just buy your chocolate bars, your crisps, your drinks, maybe some homemade sandwiches. At bloody HMP Ranby, the sandwiches they used to give us on the wing, they were selling them in the visits hall. I thought, what the cheek of that? You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, it's all very, very crappy food. In Cat D, it's a little bit better. You may get like a bacon butty or something. Because in Cat D, there was a cafe inside there where inmates can go and spend their money on a card. And so you've got people there making fresh food like a proper calf. So it was a little bit more professionally done there, you know what I mean? So it weren't too bad there. But everywhere else, it's just the same old sort of visit sort of stuff.
When you first went in, how did you adjust to prison food?
Not too great. Not too great. Yeah.
What was your options?
I remember it when you first land in jail, you won't get any options at all. You'll get a halal option or a vegetarian option. That's it, and it will just be a rice and a crappy little curry. Yeah, the food was horrible, but mate, you're in there. What do you do? I can't start. You do get lads turning up and say, I'm not bloody eating that, this, that, and the other. I weren't going to be one of them. So it's just what they give me is what they give me. I used to try and actually stick to vegetarian options as much as possible because sometimes I didn't trust their meat. I mean, when it's a Sunday and having a roast and every single chicken leg is a right-hand chicken leg, it puts questions in my mind. Every single chicken, I'm like, where's the left chicken leg? I don't get it. I was like, right, leave it. Just give me the veggie option. And so, it put a lot of matters of distrust in my mind. But it is what it is. You just get on and crack on with it. You know what I mean?
No Indian sweets.
Pardon?
No Indian sweets.
That's
a private joke.
But I hope you enjoy them. You won't find them in prison, no.
Did you utilise like classes and courses and stuff in a library or anything like that?
I'm quite educated myself anyway. You know what I mean? I didn't think prison had anything to offer me prison didn't really have anything to offer me that could better me in any single way, apart from me just getting at myself. But I did utilise the library. I am a reader. I do read a lot. I'm a history buff. I'm a huge Tolkien fan. I was just literally listening to an audiobook of the Silmarillion for like the 7th time this year. I mean, if you don't know what that is, then Google it. I did utilise the library. If the library was ever open, I'd go and get my books. And in some prisons, you had DVDs and stuff like that, so I'd always get them as well. So I made best use of that. And when I was in prison, it's the first time I ever started using the gym, and I go to gym now quite regularly as well. I absolutely love it. So the gym thing is definitely a positive that I picked up from prison.
So there's things that we take for granted, and when we go into prison, we realise how valuable they are. And 100%. Sleep is an example.
Yeah.
Did you have a lot of sleep disruption?
Well, when I first arrived in prison, I was sleeping a hell of a lot because I'd been on the run for weeks and I was on the old marching powder and this, that, and the other. And my mind, my whole body, everything about me was disrupted a lot. But when I settled into my sentence, I'd usually just get my head down at like 9, 10 o'clock and I'd wake up at 5 o'clock. I kind of do the same thing now. I actually go to sleep a little bit earlier sometimes because in the evenings, every evening, I go and have a good swim. And then I'll go swim for about 40 minutes. I'll have a pint and I'll go home. By the time I'm home, I'm shattered. You know what I mean? So I'll get my head down for about 9, half 9, finish off my emails and stuff, and then I'll wake up about 5, 6 in the morning. Recently, I've been waking up at 4:30. The only reason I've been doing that because I like looking at the stars. You know what I'm saying? I go in the back garden. I go and sit on the grass, and I like looking up at the stars. And sometimes I like watching the sunrise. So I've been getting up a little bit earlier recently just to catch that. But but that routine's kind of still stayed. Beforehand, I went to prison, bloody hell, I'd be out till 2 a.m. and I'd be sleeping until about 3, 4 in the afternoon, and then I'd get up and then all over again. That was what my routine was like before.
You've just dropped in there one of your most insane stories that we've not looked at in detail.
What was that?
On the run for weeks on the marching powder.
Oh, yeah.
Can we start with day one?
Yeah. What, on the run?
Yeah, day
right,
one.
Got you. Well, it wasn't like every day, but it was just excessive. When I went on the run, I went straight down to London. I got a taxi down there. I booked myself into the South Kensington Hotel. I must have spent about £600-700 a day for about 2 weeks. I was down there.
Were you using an alias or anything?
Pardon? No, it was a bug roll. No, they actually knew who I was at one point. I was at the bar drinking one night very late, sat there burning 20-30 quid on cognacs and stuff, dipping to the toilet and back here and there and every now and then. And I actually opened up. I was crying. I was dying inside, you know what I mean? I actually opened up to one of the bar staff and they said, we actually know. And I was like, bloody hell. That's when I buggered off to Cornwall. Then I went down to Cornwall for a bit. I stayed there. Then I come back to that hotel a week later and then I checked back in there for a few days. But to tell you the truth, there's not really any stories I could tell you down there because all I was doing was waking up, going to the bar or going to a bar, getting drunk and going back to bed.
What was your paranoia level?
Very paranoid, huge, because they were kicking down doors of my family's houses that I owned, I had associations with. They were kicking down my friends' houses. They were looking everywhere. A couple of my bank accounts got shut down. So my paranoia level was high. And everyone was just telling me, just come and hand yourself in, just go. And I was going, but I don't know what I was waiting for. I was just, my mind was just all over the place. I did have a few personal affairs that I needed to get in order to make sure my family was okay while I did go away, and I managed to deal with that. I needed to get my hands on a lawyer that could have helped me while I was in there. I managed to do that, but even still, I didn't come back to Nottingham. But then I did finally come back, and then, I told them where I was, and then they come and got me a couple of days later.
How far into being on the run was the first door kicked open?
Immediately, before I had even left Nottingham.
Whose door was that?
Well, that was my family's house, yeah. Because I was on bail to be at my... there was many associations to my bail. I had to hand in my passport, I had to give a surety, they put a tag on me, had to live at my family's house. So obviously when I didn't turn up to court, the first house I kicked was my mum and grandma's house. So yeah, that was the first one. Then they started going around other houses. In that period that I was on bail, I managed to rent a property down in Long Eaton through a friend of mine. I just said, just go into that agent's, give them 6 months rent cash. So I've got somewhere to put my stuff. And in case I ever need it, you know what I mean? I've got somewhere, I've got a little bit of a base. So that's what I did. So when I didn't turn up to court, I just went straight to that house. Then I was in Nottingham for a week or two. Then I went down south. I was down there for 2-3 weeks and I come back and then obviously went to prison. But,
So you see people on the run in movies,
Yeah.
and it's like they know they can't call their loved ones because the cops
Yeah.
are going to be listening or watching the house.
Yeah.
Is it like that?
Well, I used to change my mobile phone every week, and then I'd call my mum, or I'd have a friend, or I'd call a friend of mine, but what happened is when I was calling friends, then their doors started going in. I thought, bloody hell, I can't call them now. So then I started calling from payphones also. It was all over the place, but most of the time I was just off destroying myself, wrecking myself, making myself even worse by just getting off my nut. You know what I mean?
So as they're closing in on you and cutting you off from all your mates,
Yeah.
what's the feeling of isolation in your head?
Isolation was there, but it was more a feeling. It was more a feeling of fear of what could potentially happen to me and the consequences of it. I'll be honest with you, I was trying to get my hands on a passport. I was trying to get my hands on a passport. I had contacts down there. I had people down there. I was trying to get my hands on a passport. I thought, F it, I'm just going to go. I'm on a run already. Let's go all the way with it. You know what I mean? That was my idea. But I couldn't get the passport. I couldn't. Useless. After all this criminal activity I've been involved in my life, I couldn't even get myself a poxy little passport. And it never materialised. And then I was getting stressed from my mum. And when I did call her, I got my grandma on the phone, my brother on the phone crying, come back. So then there was that feeling of guilt. And the police officers were visiting the house quite regularly, and I know they had eyes on it quite a lot because of my profile before all this court case with being an EDL top lad. So yeah, it was. If I waited another week or so, I would have got the passport. But then eventually, I just caved and I came home. And when I came home, I told them where I was, and that was it. But it wasn't really isolation; it was just fear, and I don't know. It's quite hard to explain. I think I was, from an outside point of view, I think I was being quite selfish as well because I was thinking about myself. Because I say to my mum, I got to sort some money out. I got to make sure you lot are taken care of. Mum's like, we're not bothered about that. See, my mum will say to you, all of that doesn't matter, all that money doesn't matter. I could have gone to court and I wouldn't have got another 2.5 years. Would have been home a year and a half earlier, you know what I mean? Which is right. but it matters to me, you know. And luckily, what I did do, well, it's valid because when I came home, I did have something to fall back on to build my business. If I didn't do that, there'd be bugger all.
So other people we've talked to about being on the run describe various stages.
Yeah.
Like you go in for it, it's exciting. You know,
Yeah,
you're an outlaw is the first stage.
Yeah. I get you. Yeah.
Then you wear yourself out, you're paranoid and you're exhausted.
Yeah.
And then when you surrender or get caught, the relief.
You've described it perfectly, just as what I went through. There was a relief of when I went to Nottingham prison. You know what I mean? I got my head down, and that comes into play with the whole point of when I went to see the judge that sentenced me in the first place, and he wanted to see me. And when he finally did see me, he goes, "Look, I'm going to bring you back for your assury." And I was like, "I'm not coming back. Just send me to prison. Let me get my head down." So you're right there. You're right. You worded it better than what I could have worded it, but you're completely correct.
And how good was that sleep when you settled in?
Yeah, for days. Because you're supposed to have induction straight away. And even the officers said, just leave me alone for a day or two. They kind of knew my situation. I was all over the bloody news, been on my toes. They probably dealt with individuals like me that had been on the run and stuff. 2-3 days, it didn't bother me. Then they were like, "Look, you've got to come out yourself, start doing your induction now." So I started doing the induction and everything started cracking on, and that was that.
So I still listen to fan noise at night because fan noise blocked out the sounds in prison for me.
Yeah.
I still have a beanie and cover my ears because of the cockroaches and things like that, earplugs. Have you carried forward any habits?
Well, being alone, isolation, being by myself. That's a habit I've caught in prison because usually beforehand, I'd be the life and soul of the party. I'd be in a room. I'd have everyone around me. I could be chilling with someone all the time. Being by myself is a habit I've not been able to kick. Because when you're behind that door, and obviously 95% of my prison sentence, I was in a single cell because I always made sure of it that way. We're talking like 5 years by myself. No one else around. There's only a couple. All right, Cat D, you're out and about all the time. But even in Cat D, my door's open all day and night long. There'd be hours and hours in the daytime I'd stay in the cell by myself. I'd come out for a couple of hours. In the evening, there'd be hours and hours I'd be by myself. And so that's one habit I've not been able to kick. I've had to change myself a lot, especially with meeting my wife and being with her. She understands that part of me, but it's still there. But she does understand it, and that's one amazing thing about Priya. She does understand that because I don't think it's a habit I will ever kick. I'm trying to knock it on the head a bit. Sometimes I'll say to myself, I need a bit of time to myself. You're always by yourself. When I'm in that bloody car driving around trying to grow a business, trying to maintain a business, and I'm on the phone and I'm doing this, and then I'm going there, then I'm driving down to do a Sean Atwood podcast, got this person ring me, that person ring me, I'm not by myself. When I'm by myself and that phone's off and I'm just by myself, maybe I could be watching Lord of the Rings, I could be sat with a book. And so, even when I go to the pubs nowadays, I go to the pub by myself. I'll have my little swim. I'll go to the hotel bar. I'll go to a pub and I'll sit by myself with a pint. My phone will turn upside down. So that's something I've not been able to kick. And I'm not saying I enjoy it, but that's a habit. And I've not been able to kick that one.
Would you say that recharges you?
Maybe. It gives me time to think, definitely. You know what I mean? It makes me ponder a lot. I try not to ponder too much on the past, you know what I mean? Mainly nowadays, I more think about the future. You know what I mean? The present and the future. I don't really ponder on the past too much. I won't call it recharging, but it does, it fills a bit of a void in me. You know what I mean? That little bit of time to myself. Yeah, it does.
Is your relationship with your mum fully recovered?
Yes, she's all right now. No more cursing me. I know, yeah. She just dropped on me today. She's going to India on a holiday. I was like, oh God, I know what's coming now. Because obviously my mum and grandma live together. My brother lives in Manchester. My father passed a couple of years ago. And then so whenever my mum goes away, I have to go live at the house, take care of grandma. But usually what happens is when I'm down there and I'm back in my old neck of the woods, I'll put grandma to bed at 8 o'clock. I'll be down the pub with the lads. Then she'll hear me come in at like midnight, 1 a.m. She goes, "Some sort of babysitter you are, innit? You've not took care of me, you've done bugger all." And then, so yeah, she just dropped that on me today. So I've got to go and stay down there for 10 days, which I don't mind. It gives me a bit of time with them. And if there's ever a time if I need to be by myself, that is not the house to be by yourself. Because my grandma and mother, they'll be in that room every minute. "Are you all right? Do you need it? You need it? All right, yeah, give me a minute." So yeah. But everything's fine with my family. We live a great life. You know what I mean? We have an absolute great life. We've never lived it as well. I can't say we've never lived it as good, but everything's going in the right direction. The business is going great. I got married. My brother's looking at getting married. His job's amazing. Me and my wife are looking to buying a nice house for ourselves to start. And so everything's going in the right direction. So yeah, we everyone's living a fantastic life.
So we like to finish with some advice for the young people who think prison is cool, it's a rite of passage, it's all PlayStations and gourmet food and it's an easy ride. What do you say to those young people who are watching?
I am not in a position to tell anybody how to live their life, because during my life, I have made the wrong decisions to make a few quid to what I think is basically contributing towards a family and building a better life. Now, maybe I did that in some ways, and it did work out in some ways as well. But the pain and the frustration and the loss, not me, that my family felt, is something that I can never forgive myself for. They still bring it up to this day. You know, it's heart-wrenching. I mean, forget about the attacks on what I went through jail. When you've got a mother sat at home and an elderly grandmother worrying about, you know, how the bill's getting paid this month, or crying their eyes out because the main provider's not around, or a little brother who's finally becoming an adult and going into university wondering, how the hell do I survive this when I've always had my big brother around to take care of these sort of things for me. You know, it's a whole different ballgame. I never went into that sort of lifestyle to try and become some sort of millionaire, to go out and drive Ferraris and this, that, and the other, because I've not even achieved that to this day, even with a legitimate business. But I did go into it with good intentions, and that was to provide for myself and my family. Instead of actually doing that, I took a lot from them instead. So do what my mum told me to do. Work hard at school, even though they don't give you the best of education or information that you require nowadays to survive and move forward in life. Get something out of it. And one thing, at least, it gives you a little bit of discipline. Go and try and push yourself as far as education as possible. But there's so much you can do online. There's so many modern wealth creation methods. There's so much out there nowadays. There's a lot more availability to create a career for yourself nowadays than there was for me when I was a kid back in the 80s, 90s. So utilize everything out there, because I have never made as much money in my life as what I do now, and I do nothing criminal. So, you know what I mean? So everything I do is legitimate, and me and my family have never lived better. So if I would have put this into practice maybe 20 years ago, it would have been a whole different story. And maybe now I would be driving them Bugattis and them Ferraris instead of still building a business and still striving towards that. So I think in the long run, yeah, definitely it set me back. So just keep that in mind next time.
Well said, man. So Guramit's links are in the description box. Like I said, support his important work. He exposes PDF files. He's working on documentary coming out, protecting the kids. And let us know in the comments what you thought about this one, and give me a hug, big man.
Yeah, you know what? Thank you so much for having me, my mate. Take care. Cheers for them.
If you're looking for a gift, my new book, Sit Downs with Gangsters, is available worldwide on Amazon. We've interviewed over 1,000 people now, and we selected 10 of the hardest hitting stories to go in this book. Each chapter features the story of one of our podcast guests. Those stories are Shane Taylor, Knife Maniac's Redemption; John Elite, Mafia Hitman for the Gambino crime family; Joey Barnett, 35 years in UK prison; Ian Blink MacDonald, £6 million bank robber; Chet Sandu, Asian smuggler in Spanish Supermax; John Lawson, the hit team commander; David Macmillan, international smugglers Thai death row prison escape; John Abbott, San Quentin prison shootouts and escape; Michael Francis, Colombo crime family capo portrayed in Goodfellas; and Wildman, English enforcer in Arizona prison. Link in description box on YouTube, available worldwide on Amazon. Also, my next book, Untouchable Jimmy Savile, is getting published in December 2023. So check that out as well. It will be available worldwide on Amazon. Thank you for listening. Cheers.